Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kaukauna, Wisconsin, riding a CST tires, SSI decals, traveling back Yamaha YFC 450R, four-time ATV Motocross National Champion, number 25, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody?
We're back!
Welcome to the latest edition of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, episode 117 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, in stock and available for purchase today at shop.csttires.com. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, saying hello to our more than 223,000 monthly Digging Deep listeners in all 103 countries in which you are listening, and this is our Pleasure Valley Review Show. Much like Ironman 2022, this year's Pleasure Valley ATV National is one that will not soon be forgotten. Absolute madness ensued when the heavens opened up and rain poured down, flooding the racetrack right at the heart of Pro Moto 1. And in Pro Moto 2, the rain continued, resulting in a change on the top spot of the podium, major points ramifications, and a battle for the final podium spot that came right down to the wire and resulted in a brand new first-time podium finisher. This is our Digging Deep Pleasure Valley review, where we will be joined by event winner Bryce Ford, as well as first-time podium finisher, Estonian five-time European champion Kevin Saar, and first-time guest Brian Jenkins will join us to help break down all the action from Pennsylvania's Round 8 right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. Let's quickly shout out all of our incredible partners. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSI Decals, Valvoline, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Impact Solutions, new partner Caldera Lab and their high-performance men's skincare products and regiment. We all know moto is a gnarly sport. It can be incredibly hard on your skin, so allow Caldera Lab to help you achieve your skincare goals this summer. Get 20% off with our code DIGGINGDEEP20 at calderalab.com. That's CALDERA lab.com/diggingdeep20, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. We've been preaching all season long. Manscaped was stoked to announce that they jumped into the beard products game, introducing the Beard Hedger Pro Kit from Manscaped. A premium beard sculpting machine, the Beard Hedger allows dudes like you and I to style our beards to exactly our liking using a zoom wheel featuring 20 different built-in lengths. This Pro Kit also includes shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for your beard, as well as a brush, comb, and scissors. Now you're speaking my language, Manscaped. And get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. So rad that Manscaped is continuing to invest in ATV racing as a longtime partner of Digging Deep. We're proud to have Manscaped as a longtime outside the industry sponsor, as well as this new partnership with Caldera Lab. Help us keep them both in the fold and involved in ATV racing by using our Digging Deep 20 code so they know you enjoy digging deep and what we're all about here. Support all the great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. The 2023 season's end is nearing, but we both know you still need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website. By doing this, we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end, enabling you to help us out while purchasing the parts you need anyway. And did you know that you can buy OEM parts from Rocky Mountain ATVMC as well? Yep, shipped conveniently right to your door. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs. No new donors to shout out this week, but if you are interested in donating and hearing your name on the show, you can find the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Major thanks to all who have donated, of course. And if you can't donate, but you do want to help us out, you can leave us a rating or a review on iTunes and Spotify. That helps us out in a major way. If nothing else, it lets our partners know that you're passionate about digging deep and want us to stick around long into the future. Now, it's showtime. The 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep.
Let's go!
All right, guys, the ATV Motocross National Championship traveled to Pennsylvania for round 8, and the result was absolute madness at Pleasure Valley. Joining me to help break down all the action is a first-time guest, but someone I've had circled on my list for a very long time, presented by Valvoline and their ultimate power sports line of oil. Say hello to Mr. Wheels Up himself, Brian Jenkins. Brian, so stoked you were willing to join me here. I appreciate it so much. Welcome to Digging Deep, buddy. We're stoked to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here, and thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, Brian, like I said, always love to talk racing. I know you are the same as I am. We're cut from the same cloth in that way. Always stoked to talk about ATV racing in general. But man, Pleasure Valley, round 8, it's becoming a traditional 4th of July stop on the schedule. And like I said, Brian, we love to talk racing, but we could spend a bunch of time talking about the event prior to the weather. But I don't think that would make much sense because the rain flipped everything on its lid on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we went from a beautiful practice day and, able to really feel the track out, do the jumps, get things figured out. And then Saturday started that way. And then Mother Nature said, hey, curveball. And it was out of nowhere. Like nobody was prepared. It was like Ironman, when that happened. It was literally out of nowhere. Like we knew it was supposed to come, but honestly, it wasn't supposed to happen until way later in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was one of the things I was going to ask you, and I'll ask you that later on too, in the moto specifically. But, coming into the weekend, we knew that there was threats of weather throughout the weekend, but for that specific event, for that specific moto, it sure didn't feel like anybody was prepared for this deluge of this storm that was going to happen. So we'll get into that. But you said that the track was mint and everything was awesome. The conditions looked really good. They seemed like there was some subtle changes to the track a little bit, maybe a couple different obstacles and jumps thrown in there.
Yeah, they did change it up a little bit. I've been racing there, just a little bit of history since Jeff Cernick was doing the AMX series. With the Suzuki contingency and everything when that wave started back in like 2006.
Okay.
So I've seen a lot of accounts and different, possibilities for that track. And it felt like he went back to some of that layout from previous years. I feel like the changes were really good in some areas because it made it more user friendly. Sure. You didn't kind of like the do or die mentality in some of the jumps. So it allowed there to be a little bit more of a racy feel to the track, because you could go beside somebody and you weren't really worried, okay, what are they going to do? They're either going to, just pop over this or they're going to jump it and they're not going to get hurt type of thing. So it was a little bit more of a at ease feeling. It was more of a technical aspect as far as throttle control went to get over the jumps, if that's what you were able to do or trying to do. So sure. I feel like the that were made were absolutely more friendly for everybody. Maybe the pros had a different take on that. I don't know, but there was a few still big jumps there that were technical and that I'm sure that they enjoyed. But they did take out they kind of flipped it where that big uphill triple quad thing that has been years past, they kind of moved it, flipped it to the other side and made it on the entrance towards the
off camber.
Yes. In which I don't know if you noticed, I'm sure you did, you pay attention, but that off camber, somebody got a bright idea to throw in just a ton of sawdust. So it was really, really soft and it was different than in years past because it developed way. I think it was better though, because it didn't get real washboarded all the way across. It actually developed like little jumps in it. So believe it or not, like you'd come in and there was like just a little wall that you could either jump or try and, scrub it or use it to get on the berm, but it developed kind of different than years past because of the sawdust.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't necessarily love an entire racetrack covered in sawdust, but some sections like that to change it up and stuff. I do think that can be a fun addition at times. And yeah, just kind of piggybacking on the whole Pleasure Valley talk there. I mean, I loved racing there when we raced there for a couple years in 2008, 9, 10, that era, and then now going back there, I think it's been a really great addition to the series the last few years. We've seen some really great racing. The track is really fun. I think it's, like you said, it's technical, it's fast, it's hard packed, it gets rough. It's got a little bit of everything there. It's got good jumps. It's got all that stuff. But yeah, so you guys had good conditions on Friday. Conditions were still good. You got a little rain, I think, Saturday morning, but then, everything came around. They were pretty good for the qualifying sessions there. So when qualifying went down, the conditions were pretty good. And Joel Hetrick was the fastest qualifier by about a half a second over Brandon Hogue, who stayed hot. He was hot at the last race, obviously getting that podium, stayed hot this weekend. Nick Janusa ended up third fastest. He also continued his hot streak. He's been really good in qualifying. He's honed in on his starts. He's been riding really fast. So no surprise there with those three. Chad Wienen comes in at fourth fastest, and Jeffrey Rastrelli rounded out the top five. Where was Bryce Ford? He ended up sixth fastest on the day. And an honorable mention to Kevin Saar. We'll obviously talk to him in this episode, talk about him a lot in this episode. He ended up a strong seventh fastest. So I just want to touch on the fact that he was really good all day long, even when the track was dry. But like I said, I don't think that we got to spend too much time on, when the racing and the track was still in good shape, because like I said, things would change pretty fast in these motos going forward. So Brian, 2 hours go by. It's time for Pro Moto 1. We knew that there was basically a threat of weather all weekend long, but I didn't get the sense that leading up to that Pro Moto, that racers and teams, I don't think that anybody suspected rain in the very near future there. Like they were going to get this deluge like we talked about. So kind of sounded like maybe you thought the same thing, like it came out of nowhere.
Absolutely, Cody. It really did. And reason why I'm telling you that too is because they obviously, the Pro First Moto, have a specific time they come down. Well,
Yep.
They just happened to cut off my moto.
Okay.
So I was there, watching what was going on and paying attention just to know what I needed to do, because I go down there, obviously way early. And so I was really watching what was going on, and the sun was out. Like, it was beautiful. My bike, all I did was go over and fill it up. I did no rain prep, no big tires. There wasn't a threat of it. The sun was out.
Right.
There was a cloud that made me think, a dark cloud anyways, that made me think, okay, I need to, at least take precautions. That wasn't even a thought. And I know it wasn't for them either, because like I said, the sun was out, everything looked normal. We knew there was a threat, but it didn't look like it was an imminent threat, that it was going to occur anytime soon.
Right.
And obviously the gate drops, those guys started racing. And I'll point out too, I'm sure you probably watched the videos, but Chad had, cat-like reflexes.
Yes, he
on
did.
These hole shots. Like I don't even know how far out he was on everybody. It looked like, because where I was watching from, I was at the off camber, so I was looking at the start for both of them to see everything, and
Sure.
He just jumped that gate and got great launches, had an awesome line both times, and he pulled some pretty good hole shots, especially when he needed it. So that was very impressive.
Super impressive for sure. Timely hole shots by him for sure. So this light rain begins to fall on the sight lap, at least a little bit. We can see it in the video as we're watching the Rated MX stream there. And but nobody could have seen what was coming. Nobody could have predicted how gnarly it was going to get just 15 or 20 minutes ahead of time there as this moto gets started. So it was Chad Wienen, like you said, he rips this hole shot. Great jump off the line. I think that was the Tremelin video where I saw him. And it, like you said, I don't know exactly how much it was, but it felt like he had, half a bike length over the gate and another bike or a full bike length by the time that they got to the dirt off the concrete pad. I mean, he just had perfect reflexes there. Nick Janusa comes out second. Like I said, he's really figuring out his hole shots. He comes out second in that first moto, and then an impressive start for Wesley Wolf in third there. So we found Brandon Hogue, he's in fourth. Joel Hetrick, he's in fifth at the conclusion of the opening lap as this race is starting to get going. going. It's a rare subpar hole shot for Joel there, Brian. And then someone drew to my attention the fact that Joel wasn't ready on the start. That I hadn't seen that until I saw this video and somebody drew my attention to it. And then Carly commented on one of our posts yesterday saying that he had called for 2 minutes and they dropped it before he was ready. So did you notice that? Because obviously, like when we don't see Joel Hetrick at the front of the pack, if he's not, first, I mean, it's almost startling, but if he's not like first, second, third, then it's really startling. And it seemed like, man, when the gate went down, it was like Gary, his mechanic, still like had his hand on Joel's shoulder, or I mean, he was like right there. So I don't know exactly what was going down. I didn't know if you saw that or not, but that explained a little bit as to why Joel Hetrick didn't get the start that we're used to him getting there in that first moto.
Yeah. When I looked down the line, a few guys were still doing burnouts. Joel happened to be one of them. And he, Gary said, had his hand on the grab bar, like they were letting him push forward and almost to the gate, and then he was pulling him back, and that was still going on as I kept glancing down the line. And then somebody told me that, because as I glanced down, I noticed obviously the gate dropped, so my attention focused to what was going on. Yeah. But somebody was telling me, like, hey, that was still happening, that Gary just pulled Joel back. They had their hand up and the gate dropped and Gary was pulling Joel backwards still. And I thought, well, okay, that explains it then. There was multiple people that had said that I don't know if there was a miscommunication there, or I don't know what happened, but that would definitely explain why Joel didn't have his traditional, launch out of the gate and fight for the whole shot.
It explains it, but at the same time, it gives me so many questions still, because with these pro class hole shots, like that 30-second board is up there for a true 30 seconds, right? So, and maybe that didn't happen for this moto, but I've never seen it not happen before. And I know from being on that line that it feels like 30 minutes, not 30 seconds before that board goes sideways. So that was the part that I didn't understand. Like, I can see how this could happen in an amateur start, because sometimes that gate drops really, really fast. Like by the time the board goes sideways, the thing is damn near going down at times. But in the pro class, like I said, that board is up so long. It's hard to imagine this happening. It's just I'm dumbfounded a little bit.
I'm right there with you, because that was my first thought was, especially Joel, any one of those guys, the vets of the class,
they're so aware.
If you don't think that they have an internal clock to know exactly what's going on and when they need to be ready, like those guys are spot on every time. So for a mistake like that to happen, I had questions myself. I mean, there was a few things that happened, with the race that I was kind of questioning, like what is going on here? I don't understand what's happening.
Sure.
So that was the first of my questions for that race right there was, if that indeed was happening, mm-hmm. It had to be obvious. And, people had to see it. So, obviously I had seen it as I was glancing down the gate. I didn't specifically watch him till the gate fell. But like I said, I anticipate Joel being on top of everything, and mm-hmm. There's not a mistake. So for there to be a mistake, it really gives me a lot of questions as well as to what really happened or what the story is on that.
Well, in the story is, or the how the rules are, how it's always been explained to me in the pro meetings and whatever, is asking for 2 minutes can only happen before the 30-second board goes up, right, Brian? So if they asked for 2 minutes, they either never got it, or they were asking 2 minutes after it was already, after they couldn't ask for it anymore. And we know Harv is going to go by the book on, if that 2 minute board is up or 30-second board is up, you can't ask for 2 minutes anymore. So either way, perplexing a little bit. I thought that then this was going to become, Chad Wienen making a break for it. Cause at first you didn't see Joel Hetrick. You didn't see where he was. Chad Wienen's out front. The conditions are getting slippery a little bit already. We know it's a hard pack track. Most of the track is. So we add a little bit of moisture. I'm thinking, man, on these conditions, I don't know how you're going to race up through the pack necessarily. Chad Wienen's out leading. I'm thinking he's going to make a break for it, like I said, but no, he'd grow his lead to, 5 seconds, about just over 5 seconds. And that would not stop Joel Hetrick before he made a couple moves. He moves into second, and then he would be on the hunt. He had had a hot line on the bottom of that off camber that you were mentioning, and you said you were sitting up in that area there, and then the heavens opened up. The rain poured down, standing water covered the track, just like you said, word for word. I remember posting this on Saturday. It was like Ironman 2022 all over again. And just as conditions are basically at their worst, rain's pouring down, track is covered, it's standing water. Joel Hetrick makes the move on Chad Wienen. He got it, kind of whittled that lead down. I remember posting he was a half a second a lap faster than Wienen at one point. He gets it all the way down to 2 seconds. It's sub 2 seconds. Then he's all over Chad, makes the move. And this is when we started to see all kinds of movement going up and down the board there. But I'll let you touch on Joel Hetrick getting up to the front, making the moves. I mean, he was ripping, like I said, he had that hot line at the bottom of that off camber. Chad had no way to know about it. He's out front. He's just going to be doing his thing. But Joel Hetrick had that in his back pocket, like, man, because it looked like he was making up a lot of time, a lot of ground with that line there at the bottom of that off camber. And to have that in your back pocket, knowing you might have a chance to drive around the leader, he was probably racing up to Chad, couldn't get there fast enough to use that line, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. You're right. There was a couple spots where Joel really reeled Chad in. And the off camber, even though I was standing there, I anticipated what he was doing. I figured he found one of those lines that was way faster, because of the way that that's positioned. I can see their helmets, but depending upon which line they took.
Yeah.
But I knew that Joel was faster, whichever line he was taking. And I felt like Chad, since he was out front, he couldn't see what was happening, that if he found something that worked, he stuck with it. And I think that was the whole advantage for Joel was taking different lines and running, different inside outsides, and was able to hunt Chad down basically and set himself up for a perfect pass at a very opportune time, because I think he made the pass just before it got really bad.
I think you're right.
If I'm not because he was able to run him down. It's like typical Joel fashion. That's his style track. He obviously finds the lines, and he was moving. He was making everything look very easy once he cleared everybody else and ate into that lead pretty quick. So I believe he made the pass right before the skies started to open up. And I don't want to say that he was sprinting away, but he did make the pass. And then, like we were talking about, the weather occurred, and that's when things got dicey out there. I could tell who Chad and Joel were, but everybody else, to be honest, as soon as it started raining, they were covered in mud. I could not tell who anybody was until they went by and I could see their back.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, it very quickly became a survival of the fittest race, a race for survival here. And, since then, obviously we've seen like the Rip It Up Films videos. We saw that helmet cam from Jeffrey, and it's like, man, it's about as bad as you could imagine it to be. All the standing water, riding the edge of the racetracks. Like, it feels like you're clearly in some relatively pretty severe storm, right? And that's exactly what was going on there. But like I said, this is when we started to see all kinds of movement up and down the board. I mean, with 2 to go, it was Hetrick, Wienen, Janusa, Rastrelli, Saar, Ulrich, Wolf, Cody Ford, Bryce Ford, Molander. That was the top 10. Bryce Ford was literally in 9th with 2 or 3 laps to go there. And yeah, obviously that changes, but it was far from over. Like Ironman 2022, like I said, all kinds of changes were happening late in this race, and riders were coming out of nowhere. Guys were jumping up, from way back and vice versa. And like you said, I mean, there was no way to tell what was going on, who was who. I thought the same exact thing. And then you think about those riders, and it's like, man, a lot of times, I don't know how this happens or whatever, but a lot of times these terrible conditions when I was a pro happened for the second moto. So at least you knew you didn't have to go back out there with that same machine, with those same set of eyeballs that might be full of mud and all that stuff. But I was already literally thinking like, man, this is just the first moto. They're probably all going to have to put new engines in, whether they made it or not. They're going to have to, try to flush their eyes out as much as they can, do all the things they need to do to go back out there and, probably do this all over again. And I found myself feeling for those riders riders at that time and their teams. I mean, all the work, like you literally couldn't have, like if you would have gave them a day in between motos, they would have used up all that time, let alone an hour and a half or whatever you get. Like, it's just, it's nuts the way that it played out. But how would you explain to somebody how bad it was if they didn't see the footage? And it's actually a hard thing to do because it was so bad.
And you know what, something I want to add too was not only did that rain come down the way it was,
Okay.
but all week we had, you know, over in our area, on the East Coast here, we've had this almost like a really dense, thick smog from the Canada wildfires
Yeah.
that have been blowing down. So at the same time, it got like that low cloud where, you know, that weird feeling in the air, like a mist kind of thing that was on top of the rain. And it was hard to see because it was almost like foggy. It was almost like, you know, really thick. And something interesting that I seen happen and occur in that race too, I don't know if you could tell from the video, but originally, you know, like we said, Joel had made that pass on Chad right before it got bad.
Yeah.
Well, when it started raining, those guys never slowed down, Cody. They were sprinting just like a normal race for probably 3 or 4 laps, like it was dry. And then it was like something kicked in with every single one of them that they all kicked it way back down and was like, you know what, we got to go back to like we did at Ironman. We got to, you know, finish this race. I'm not sure if they knew how much time was left, but everybody, it seemed like with about 4 or 5 laps to go, everybody had slowed down and started trying to pick lines that they weren't going to have a possible, you know, mechanical failure or engine failure. They were trying to save the bikes to limp it through.
Yes.
And with like 2 laps to go, I noticed there was 2 guys that were sprinting out of nowhere. And I did not know who it was. I couldn't tell who it was.
Okay.
I assumed that one of them was Joel, but I you know, once the results came up, I was wrong. It was actually the Ford brothers who were racing like their lives depended on it. That they were sprinting through one. And it was wild because I'm not sure if anybody really knew, like, why are these guys doing this? Or, you know, are they lappers? What are they, you know, it was just kind of like, it was really odd to see because everybody else was the same pace and almost in like protective mode of make it to the finish line. We just got to survive. You know, they had their positions. I think they knew where they were. And then these guys just turned everything, you know, upside down when they came through because it was all last minute. Like it was perfect timing and execution. I mean, for sure it was unexpected.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I was trying to paint the picture of, you couldn't keep track. Like you didn't know, just like you said, you didn't know who was charging or which rider wasn't and what place they were in. Like dudes got so separated then late in that race. So perfect example of, like you said, how fast those guys were going, literally until they couldn't physically go that pace anymore. So Chad Wienen ran 152s for every lap for the first half of the race. On lap 6, he ran a 153. So basically the same lap time. On lap 7, he ran a 204. So now we're 10 seconds slower ish. The next lap, on lap 8, he was 15 seconds slower than the previous lap. So now he's 30 seconds slower than his original pace. The next lap, he was a whole minute slower than the previous lap. So on lap 9, he had, you know, the track had deteriorated an entire minute for Chad Wienen. And then on lap 10, he ran a 5 minute and 6 second lap time. And then a 4 minute and 15 second lap time on the last lap. So that shows how bad the track had gotten for Chad Wienen. So same with Joel Hetrick. So 153, 152, 151, 151, 153, 202, 220, 250, 338, 414. So you're seeing like how quickly the track is deteriorating for these guys. Now, like you said, Bryce Ford is charging at the end of this race. So he runs a 154, a 155, a 154, a 156, a 157, a 205, a 425, which is when we saw him go from 4th to 9th. And then after that, he goes 259. He races up to 4th. 234, he's now in 2nd, and on the last lap he runs a 230, which is a minute and 45 seconds in one lap, faster than Joel Hetrick, to take the lead and win that moto. Like you said, he was charging like a madman. And you see some of this up and down that we're seeing, like Cody Ford. He's 12th. He was 10th on lap 7. He was 8th on lap 9, and then he goes 6th, 5th, finishes 3rd. It's nuts. Dane Molander, he's 15th all the way till lap 7, then 10th, 7th, finishes 6th. Jeffrey Restrelia, I remember making a mental note of during the race too. So he's 6th, 7th, 14th, 13th, 12th, 11th, all the way up to 4th, and then falls to 10th at the end of the race. Something must happen to his machine. But like you said, you could not keep track of which riders were racing forward, which riders were a lap down, which riders had spent time on the side of the track with their quad, up and down, right, trying to get the thing to restart. Like, it was very hard to track what was going on. But late in that race, it was fascinating to see how much faster the Ford brothers were going relative to everybody else. And then Bryce Ford sneaks by at the very end with one corner to go and claims the second moto win of his career. It was amazing to watch. I'll never forget it. I truly won't. And I'm sure you're not. I mean, you were there to see it. It was an unforgettable one for sure.
Oh yeah. He came across the line and, I was down at the line. I was in, you always see the pictures of that cargo container down there
Yes.
with Suzuki
Yeah.
spray paint on. Well, we're all gathered there. We got stuck there at that point. So we're peeking out of that, watching the race go on the Pastrana Highway and then across the front there. And then we could see the big triple in that area to our left. So I'm watching all that go on. And I had seen the 2 board come out. I seen the white flag. Then I seen the checker, and I heard somebody revving their bike. And I'm looking, and I'm trying to see who it is. I was like, "That's Bryce. Did Bryce just win?" And I was completely, I couldn't hear the announcing going on either.
Okay.
So then we're coming down and saying, what the results were, and because Allred was up there, I seen Saar. I seen Cody Ford, and I was trying to figure out, were these guys a lap down? Were these guys, on the lead lap? I really couldn't tell, unfortunately, just because that's how, hard it was to keep track of everybody. They were so mud covered that you really couldn't tell. So it was difficult. Thank goodness for the transponders, because I was really confused. I just knew that the people that I had seen and was revving their bikes and excited, I thought, wow, if they came from, where they were when I was watching and able to tell, like they were in, 6th, 7th position, that they were able to charge up, that's awesome. Great for them.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what a better way to say it would be other than absolute madness, that first moto. It was a treat as a spectator. I see people on the internet saying, that, or you just hear over the years that mud races aren't, real races. This isn't real racing. This isn't real motocross or anything like that. And I can't subscribe to that theory, man. I really can't. Like, I love, I mean, there will be more listens on this episode, probably, than recent episodes, just because the intrigue of different riders being up there, different winner, just the craziness that this race showed for us. And that's exciting. And at the same time, like, every single rider on that line had the opportunity, to do what Bryce Ford did or any of the other guys did in that race. And he's the one that executed to perfection. And I like that. I don't want to take that away from anybody. Like, when I was a pro, man, we kind of liked mud races because I had a little bit better chance to be up front. You know what I mean? So like, I definitely don't subscribe to that theory of that they're not real races or don't, matter as much or anything like that. And like I said, for us, it's pretty exciting. I love seeing some different guys out there. I mean, think about the Ford brothers. They go 1-3 in that moto. What a memory that is. Like the photos that I saw of Ken Hill, that Ken Hill took there with the Ford brothers being on the podium together. Like, what a freaking memory that is. And then, just like you, there's other people that were at the race this weekend thinking about and burned in their mind is the 2 Ford brothers racing, charging like their lives depended on it late in that race. And that's a cool thing. Like, they saw an opportunity, they seized it. And man, the Ford brothers both finish on the moto podium there in that first moto. That's pretty freaking rad.
That absolutely is tremendous for that family, and I'm really happy for them that they were able to accomplish that. And that's a feat. You can't take that away. I know it rained. I know it was a horrible, muddy mess. I get that. But everybody was given the same conditions, dealt the same cards, had the same opportunity, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And they earned it. They literally went out there and they gave it everything they had to earn those positions and end up where they were. And nobody can take that away from them. That's great. And with that being said, there was only one thing in the event or during the course of that race that I don't know. I don't race that class, so I really can't have an opinion that's going to go far. But the only thing that I seen happen that I would like to see addressed for their safety, because I care about those guys. I love to watch them race.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want anything to happen to them. But there was some lightning that occurred more than once, and they just let those guys go. And I felt like that was one thing that I know that we've all watched Supercross. Like you said before, we're cut from the same cloth. We're huge fans. We watch any racing. We're like, and I would have liked to have seen them at that point in time exercise the safety rule and line them up in the position that they're in the straight line, like what they've done in Supercross, and whatever they agree to come back out and finish that, just to keep them safe. That would be the only thing I would like to add to that or point out to that I felt like should have happened, just to keep those guys safe.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, those guys, they're gnarly. I mean, and you know what, Cody, you might have heard something about this. I thought I heard somebody say something in passing, and I didn't follow up on it and didn't know if it was true. But during the course of that moto, somebody said, I don't know if it was Cody checked on Bryce or Bryce checked on Cody, that I don't know if they got hung up or was on the side of the track or something, but I thought I heard one of them checked on the other one to make sure they were okay, and they like took off together, and that was kind of like the beginning of them charging or something like that.
I didn't hear that, but I would believe it, because Bryce had that 4-minute lap time at one point. And then, yes, they were like they were 6th and 7th or 8th and 9th or whatever it was at the time. And there's photos that Robin sent me of those two together, like charging, just as you described, in these terrible conditions. So that very much could be the case. I do want to touch on the lightning thing, though, because we heard Chad on the podium say, basically, this is ridiculous that, there's the lightning. It should have been called. We saw him take a hard stance, and a lot of riders take a hard stance with the Ironman thing last year. A lot of riders thought that should have been called last year. We saw lightning in the tower last year, just like you would have saw it this weekend. The one thing I will say, the only thing I know, the only info I have on the whole lightning thing is information that I was privy to myself. And that was right on the Rated MX live feed, on Michelle's live feed. You could hear Harv, and I'm assuming it was on Kevin's radio, because Kevin was doing the announcing, and you could hear Harv, or whether he came into the booth or wherever they were, and he said, "Did anybody see lightning? Did anybody see lightning?" And I thought maybe somebody referenced it popping up on their phone, that lightning was detected. And Harv said, no, I mean, the sense I got was no. Did anybody see it? Did anybody see it here? And nobody said yes in the tower there. And Kevin, and this is, I'm not calling anybody out by any means. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what was communicated in that booth. Kevin said, if I saw lightning, I would tell you, Harv. And so, I mean, Harv was looking for it, but nobody in those roles gave him the information of, we saw lightning. And yeah, I mean, this seems to be a trend, but I don't know how to say it, but I want to vouch for them at least a little bit on, they were aware, they were like trying to detect it, but nobody in that role saw it, if that means anything.
That does, and maybe I should have brought that up at a different time. I don't.
No, you're good.
Away from like what we're talking about with the Ford brothers, because they absolutely kicked butt and they deserve that. And like I said, that moto, they earned it. Everybody that finished and even came across the line, they earned it, and they deserve applause and, accolades just for making it through those gnarly conditions. But what I will say is this, that you had a group of the plus 40 AB guys in a steel shipping container at the start line that was nervous because we seen 3 lightning, I'll say they flashed across the sky, that we seen actual lightning where we were. Okay. And we were kind of nonchalantly joking, saying, yeah, and we're down here in a steel container holding umbrellas out the front of it, basically a lightning rod.
Right.
And to add to that, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. I know if Harv sound, I have full confidence in Harv making, the decision it's needed. But I will say this too, where we were at, we had 2 pro mechanics, run over in front of where we were at and ask, does anybody know where Harv is?
Got it.
So all the information that I was, I guess seen because of where I was at, with what was going on. But I do know that there was some mechanics upset because they themselves seen the lightning and they were running around trying to find somebody that they could say, hey, what are we going to do? Or, is this the right call to make? Should we, take a 20-minute, stop them and go back to their, what is it? You go back to your last lap's position.
Yep.
And line, single file line, I think is the fair way to do it. Make a line on the ground or use the whole shot flags and say, okay, you're single file until you get to there. Once we start you back up, and then you can pass, make it fair. I'm not trying to take anything away from those guys and give anybody an easy pass or an easy position. I want it to be fair, but I think we need to be safe. And I think that, there was a problem last year at Ironman. If there was a problem this year with what happens, and it doesn't happen all the time, but I just feel like that's probably something that needs visited upon with those guys because it affected them. I have an opinion. I wasn't on the track, but I think the pros need to follow up then, because as a matter of fact, when we were done, the moto was over, it had lightning again. And Kevin came over and said, okay, there's lightning, we got to do at least a 20 to 30 minute delay. I can't remember what the time limit is before we go back to racing. And he said that they would use that time to try to clean up the track after the fact. That's the information I can give you from me being there and what I heard personally. I couldn't hear anything, obviously in the tower or over the radios, but that's what I was exposed to.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about that, right? I mean, if there's lightning, and if they would have saw it, the races probably should have been shut down. If it was, I don't know if the rule is halfway or if it's 2/3, but if it's halfway or 2/3 completed, the moto gets called right then and there, which would have been the case likely if they would have stopped it when the lightning was seen there. So that would have the results would have stood as they were. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. The one thing I can say, and I will say to follow up that whole little spiel there, especially with the Ford brothers, is whatever they had for their airbox setups or whatever they had going on there, Baldwin had it figured out, because those 2 guys were charging at the end when very few were. Their setup there was key, obviously, and was pretty good. So your top 5 finishers there in Pro Moto 1 were Bryce Ford, Joel Hetrick, Cody Ford, Kevin Saar fourth. The European looked good in adverse conditions right at home, and Chad Wienen holds on for 5th. Dane Molander, he ends up 6th, which was super, super cool to see. And Brian, generally, if you have one rain moto, the other moto might be muddy if it's afterwards, but rarely do you get 2 rain motos. That's just not something we see very often, but we had that this weekend at Pleasure Valley. Steady rain fell once again as the riders took the gate ahead of Pro Moto 2. I thought it kind of subsided. You would know better than I thought it kind of subsided. And then I literally got this literally a pouring in of messages from 20 or 25 people saying, hey, you'll never believe it, but the rain is starting to pick up again and the guys are going to the line.
It did exactly that, Cody. They had that delay after their first moto, and they pushed them back like an extra half hour because of everything that was going on.
Right.
And the rain the rain basically subsided. Like it it might have misted for a few minutes here and there, but the track started coming together. There was people, they were out there racing, and it wasn't bad. They were out there ripping the track and doing quite a bit of the jumps, and I was impressed. I thought, okay, the track's going to come around. Like you said, very rarely do we see two rain motos.
Right.
So, it's going to allow these guys to race and kind of, go back out there with a vengeance and make up for that other moto if they need to. And we're going to see a great race. And sure enough, you called it. I think that it started sprinkling, but about the time that those guys were called down there to go to the line, it was raining. I mean, it wasn't super hard, but it seemed like it was progressively getting worse. And I don't think that those guys even took a sight lap.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
I don't think they did. I think they got down there and just said, let's get it over with. Let's just go.
No, yes, because on the radio, they're like, kind of doing the spiel, and introducing every rider. And then all of a sudden they're racing. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't assume anybody was going to take a sight lap if it was raining again. And so, yeah, you can pick up where you left off there. But yeah, no sight lap for any of those guys.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I was watching, and I thought, okay, I don't have to really, be on this 100% to watch, because they're going to do their sight lap, and I can go grab a drink or whatever and be ready. And I'm kind of lingering around, and I hear the revs come up, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening. So of course they take off again, and once again Chad jumps out of the gate and is just like a rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
He comes through the first turn and he's clean. I mean, whatever line he was kicking, he had it going on this weekend.
Yeah, he did.
And then, obviously the rest of the guys, they're jumping in right behind him. And almost immediately by turn 2, Chad's the only one that who he is, because everybody else is completely.
Exactly.
Yep. And we were trying to find Joel, trying to find Brandon, trying to find where, of course, Bryce was, and Cody, because after that first moto, I was curious to see where, because they're set up now for Moto 2.
Yep.
So it was very interesting that we were waiting for them to come out of the back section where you couldn't see anything, for them to come down and start figuring out, where's Jeff, where's Saar, where are these guys at right now?
Yep.
So they were racing too. Like, they were still trying different lines. They were trying to make quick passes. They were trying to, get clear right away. I want to say is probably what they were thinking too, because that first, at least half a lap, those guys were racing and dicing it up pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously the racing is harder in conditions like this, but this moto was different than the first one in, like, it wasn't all standing water, it wasn't deluge type conditions, but it was difficult conditions. But you still saw these guys racing kind of like normal, right? Like you look at the results of the second moto and they look a little more standard with, a few weird things sprinkled in there. But like you said, Chad Wienen rips a killer timely hole shot, right? This is just something he's been so good at over the years, is when he needs one, especially in conditions like this, he'll grab them. So hole shots are more important than ever in the mud. He rips the hole shot there in that second moto, and Chad Wienen kind of takes off. It was 2 for 2 on hole shots for him for the day, which is a good thing for Chad there. Bryce Ford, Moto 1 winner. He was running second early, and those two specific guys would benefit from the good starts. Like you said, Chad stays totally clean. Bryce, he got some of that roost from Chad, but at the same time, he was able to, to kind of distance himself from the rest of the pack while they were racing and kind of do his own thing. And those guys specifically got out front and distanced themselves over the rest of the field. Nothing better though, Brian, than a hole shot or a good start in the mud. Like, to know you got all those guys behind you and they got to deal with your roost. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I give it to Bryce. That kid, he rode very smart, because you could tell he was staying somewhat close to Chad there at the beginning, because he didn't want to allow anybody else to like reel him in or kind of latch on to him. As soon as he could, he stayed far enough back that he wasn't taking on any roost. He was kind of by himself.
Right.
So he rode a very, very smart race for what he needed to do. And positioned himself very well. That was very fortunate for him. And something else I want to point out too, that you said about the track being, it wasn't standing water. It wasn't crazy. It was just really kind of slimy, and it was wet. It was those conditions where you're kind of, you'll second guess, like, can I do this? Can I not? And I'm going to tell you what, the triple at the end of they used to call it the Pastrana Highway. I don't know what he's calling it now, but that triple after the finish line,
up before the bridge.
Yeah, that you land and then you make the left up over the bridge.
Yep.
Chad did that every lap.
Really?
Nobody else did that. If they did, they'd do it once in a great while, but they didn't do it every lap. Chad did that every lap in the rain. I was blown away. And he got over it. He wasn't casing it. He was getting over it. I was just flabbergasted to watch him do that. I mean, that guy, that was pretty technical to do. And he did have clear track, so he wasn't around somebody that you had to worry about, maybe the back tires slipping out or kind of fading into somebody. But I just felt like that was really impressive.
Dude is such a gamer. He's such a legend. Bryce Ford too. I mean, the way that he stepped up, and like you said, I would use the same word. He was a gamer. Like, he executed so well on this day. So it was Wienen, Gap, Bryce, Gap, and then Rastrelli, Lindquist, Hetrick all bunched up early in this one. And just when we noticed Brandon Hogue had fallen all the way to dead last, and he was way behind the field, like 40 seconds behind the next closest guy, it was Joel Hetrick now free falling down the board. It looked like he got stuck in a berm. Brian, did you happen to see that at all? But either way, Joel Hetrick buried himself down the board. And that would obviously be one of the biggest headlines coming from this day.
Well, that we were trying to find Joel and Brandon because it looked like they were making charges, that they were coming up towards the front when I had seen them previous, when I could identify them anyways. And I was looking for them and I was watching the timing, and I seen both of them disappear, and somebody came running over and said that Brandon and Joel got stuck in the turn down at the bottom of the track. So I thought they were talking about the turn before the uphill double, the double section.
Okay.
Possibly. I couldn't see them from where I was at, so I wasn't sure if that's what they were talking about or if they were talking about the Big Bang turn, that I guess two before that. I couldn't tell. I was not able to see, but that's what I had heard, that they got stuck on the turn at the bottom of the track. So I just kind of felt like it was down there in that area, because that was one of the areas that the track was wider, that you could go for a turn in traffic if you needed to. Yep. But possibly if there was water in there, you wouldn't know how deep it was, and they could have got hung up because, I know in practice the day before, the ruts got real deep over there. So I was thinking if those ruts did the same thing and possibly got filled with water and those guys didn't know how deep they were, they could have got high centered and got stuck over there. So I don't know if that's what happened, but I did hear that Brandon and Joel did get stuck. And like you said, they went backwards down the lineup, and then it was really hard to keep track of, like I said, who was who until you seen their back. Wesley Wolf, he was doing really well this weekend. I definitely want to point that out too, that he was riding better than I've seen him in a very long time. He was riding with a purpose, it looked like. So I definitely got to give it to him. And the fact too, I'm sure you've seen, he had to push his quad across the finish on moto, and wow, that guy's a gladiator.
And they said that he had to push it all the way from basically the off-camber corner. And if that's true, man, that is unreal.
It was almost at the end of the off-camber, I heard.
Oh my God.
It through the off-camber, through that turn and over off the track, and then up beside, even though that was like the water
truck lane. Yeah.
Still, that, what, if you go over there and walk that hill, you're on a hill, your legs are burning. I can't imagine pushing a quad tire thing as well.
I can't either. Obviously, I was definitely going to get to Wesley Wolf and the pushing thing. He's definitely been trending upward in recent weeks. I've been saying that on every show recently, that he's been looking better and better. He's racy. This class is just so fast right now that sometimes that might mean a seventh or an eighth, but that's still really impressive in this class. But yeah, with Joel, I thought maybe it happened in the off-camber corner just because I thought I caught a glimpse of seeing that on the video. But either way, he fell from 5th to 15th in that one lap. He had turned like a minute and a half longer lap time than what we're used to seeing him run on this day. So Joel Hetrick free falls. He's down. So we've essentially lost Joel Hetrick. We've essentially lost Brandon Hogue. And at the front of the pack, it was Wienen, Bryce Ford, Rastrelli, Lindquist. Having a day was Kevin Saar. He was running 5th now after finishing 4th in the first moto. Cody Ford, Nick Janusa, Michael Allred, Logan Stanfield, and Adam Ulrich finished out the top 10 there. And this is when I first mentioned in our play-by-play on Facebook that final podium spot could very well come down to Kevin Saar and Cody Ford, Brian. And for the rest of this race, I was monitoring those two guys. It seemed pretty clear that it was going to come down to those two guys. I loved the storyline of either one of them finishing on the podium. And as we look forward, it comes down to a last lap pass, not by either of those guys. But yeah, it was really fun to think of either of those guys making the podium, and then eventually we get one of them that makes it. But I knew coming kind of down the stretch, I was going to be bummed for whatever one didn't make it, because I wanted to see them both make it, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, to make it up there in that class, you know, you've been in that class, you know what it takes to even be there. For those guys to get on a podium, I mean,
nuts.
I don't care. Dry race, mud race, you could throw any obstacle you want out there. To be up there with those guys, you did something, you accomplished something, because there's so many of them so good. You know, you've got nothing to be ashamed of at that point. Whether you made top 5 guys should get something, I feel like, because you're accomplishing something. Those guys, they're probably faster in the mud than I was when it was dry, if that tells you how fast those guys are. Like they're just blazing quick.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to watch their skill and their craft, the way that they go out there and make everything look so easy. So I'm real happy for him. Like you said, Cody put on another awesome race. I mean, start to finish, passes made all the way to the last lap. So, I mean, I didn't know who was going to make the podium. Like, I'm not even sure that the announcers knew at that time, because there was still passing going on that they were trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I finally heard who made it, I thought, oh, wow, you know, that there's a big curve for everybody. That'll be a great applause worldwide right there, because somebody different made it up there, and somebody, you know, not from the States, somebody from foreign soil actually made it up there, and they earned it. So congrats to him and Kevin. That was a heck of a ride. And I mean, he earned it. He earned it in a horrible condition day, and he was still up there. He earned it. He fought through it. He overcame conditions. So, you know, he's the man. That was a great ride, and that's something I'm sure he will never forget.
Oh, for sure. And it was the way that he was consistent in both motos. I mean, he was very solid. He was basically in the same spot, very close to it in both motos. And that tells you, you know, he, like you said, he really earned that podium. He didn't luck into it. That's why I wanted to touch on the fact that he was 7th fastest in qualifying, which is really impressive. He was right there with that kind of next level, regular podium, you know, weekly podium contender guys. So he was fast all day, looked right at home in crappy conditions. But just hitting the rewind button, just a tick. Wienen had a 10-second lead late in this race over Bryce, who had nearly a 10-second gap over Jeffrey Rastrelli. Hetrick and Hogue were in 14th and 15th. Janusa overtook Kevin Saar for 5th. So this is what I wanted to get to. With that move, it shifted the podium from Kevin Saar, who had held that spot a little earlier on, to Cody Ford. Now Cody was sitting on the spot that would eventually possibly turn into a podium if they all stayed as they ran. So the two brothers would have got moto podiums together in the first moto, and with every lap they were getting closer to sharing an overall podium in that second moto. So out front, riding a masterfully, perfectly executed race. You said he was tripling at the top of the hill there, all these things. I mean, Chad Wienen had this thing on lock. He takes the first moto win of his season, probably a little later than anybody expected, but, you know, dealing with that collarbone injury and all the stuff that Chad Wienen had to go through this year, he gets the first moto win of his season. He'll be second overall with 5-1 scores. With 1-2 scores, however, Bryce Ford earns the second overall victory of his professional career. So let's talk to the man of the hour, Bryce Ford, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. The official tire choice of Digging Deep, CST tires are the choice of ATV racing's elite on the track, in the woods, and every other terrain. CST tires swept the ATV racing world in 2022 as Joel Hetrick, Bryson Neal, and Bo Barron rode their Pulse MXR and Pulse HT tires to an ATV Pro Motocross title, GNCC XC1 Pro title, and 10th ATV Pro Works Racing title, respectively. Led by champion Joel Hetrick and podium contenders Bryce Ford, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Nick Janusa, CST's Pulse MXR tire is the most trusted tire in ATV motocross today. Available in soft and standard compounds, the Pulse MXR offers the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. And did I mention they have a contingency program as well? Visit shop.csttires.com to join the CST takeover today, or prepare to be beat by someone who did. The best of the best choose CST. Do you? You know we're Team Blue Crew here at the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, as the Yamaha YFZ450R is the official ATV of Digging Deep. In a move started by 8-time ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, who with his next championship will become the winningest champion in ATV motocross history, we are living in ATV racing's YFZ450R era. Alongside Wienen, 7-time GNCC XC1 Pro ATV National Champion Walker Fowler welcomed a pair of new champions to the Yamaha Champions Club, as the podium-proven Yamaha YFZ450R proved to be the winning choice for Joel Hetrick and Bryson Neal. This unprecedented success for the YFZ450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the clear fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has resulted in a complete Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Evident by the continuation of Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program, Yamaha riders will once again cash in on payout and prize opportunities in 2023, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com. Follow Yamaha Outdoors, as well as the new Blue Crew official channel on social media, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. SSI Decals, your way. SSI Decals sets the standard with the best looking decals, graphics kits, and vinyl wraps in the industry. Established in 1947, SSI took shape as an offshoot of their parent company by doing a little work for local pro Chad Wienen. Nearly 2 decades later, and fueled by a passion for ATVs, the company has flourished into one of ATV Moto's most recognized brands. From ATV motocross, SSI has expanded into graphics and design work for top racers in GNCC, Works Racing, Pro Motocross and Supercross, off-road, and more, headlined by 8-time world champion top fuel drag racer Clay Milliken. Whether your project is big or small, SSI Decals will make your identity stick. Get started today at SSIDecals.com and use code DIGGINGDEEP10 for 10% off at checkout. Things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their wide range of championship-winning chains. From the street to the track and everywhere in between, DID chains are designed to give you the optimal riding experience with great performance and increased chain life. Consistent to the core, pick up your box of reliability today. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Namura Technologies. For over 20 years, Namura has pushed the limit of value and reliability in the ATV and side-by-side market. Covering more applications than anyone in the industry, Namura's full line of cast and forged pistons, connecting rods, gasket kits, and industry-leading top-end repair kits and more have led to higher overall engine performance for your machine. Visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com and follow along on Instagram for giveaways and exciting new products in 2023. Namura Technologies, your one-stop shop engine component supplier.
We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV Components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals and cylinders, shock and suspension parts, winches, clutch kits, valves, carb kits, bearing kits, and drive chain parts, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need, for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world, visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com.
For over 150 years, Valvoline has been dedicated to constant improvement and innovation across all disciplines of racing. As a proud member of Team Valvoline for nearly a decade, I have witnessed their unwavering commitment to pushing the boundaries of performance. Valvoline has sponsored some of the greatest names in motorsports, solidifying their position as a powerhouse in the industry. Being a part of this historically great team has been an incredible privilege. When it comes to my equipment, whether it's my daily commuting vehicles, race quads, or anything in between, I trust nothing but Valvoline. Their range of products and lubricants consistently delivers increased horsepower, durability, and engine life. While Valvoline's latest innovation, the Valvoline Ultimate Powersports line, stands out as a true game changer, their entire lineup deserves recognition. With the Ultimate Powersports, I've experienced unparalleled performance on the track and beyond. Its advanced synthetic formula is specifically engineered for high-performance powersports vehicles, delivering unmatched power, protection, and endurance. Upgrade to Valvoline today and experience the difference for yourself. Visit ValvolineGlobal.com to explore their full range of products, including the groundbreaking Valvoline Ultimate Powersports. Discover why Valvoline has been a trusted name in the racing industry for over a century. All right, guys, brought to you by our new friends at Caldera Lab and their high-performance men's skincare products and regimen. We all know moto is a gnarly sport. It can be hard on our skin, so allow Caldera Lab to help you achieve your skincare goals this summer. Get 20% off with our code DiggingDeep20 at calderalab.com/DiggingDeep20. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a now two-time ATV motocross event winner, a reigning Quad Cross of Nations champion representing Team USA, who's headed back to Europe to represent our great country once again, joining us following the second victory of his career and season, and coming to us live from possibly the most beautiful place on earth, I think, your pro class overall winner at Pleasure Valley. Say hello to Mr. Bryce Ford. Buddy, you did it again. You're now a two-time winner as a pro and in some really difficult conditions out there in Pennsylvania. How does it feel?
Cody, thank you for having me on the show again. Winning Pleasure Valley, it really feels good. It's something, I didn't really expect with the weather we got, like you said, was pretty crazy. But to get my second overall ever, it's still really special. And, I had a really good day going for me, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
So can you please take me through this first moto? Obviously, we know conditions change drastically from beginning to end, but so you start like seventh-ish and you race your way up to fourth by lap 7. Then you fall all the way back to ninth after like a 4.5 minute lap. And then you start charging forward all the way up to and through Joel Hetrick on the last lap. So take me through this craziness, this madness of that first moto. Cause it was wild. Like you as a spectator, you could not track what the hell was going on out there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So to start Moto 1, I got a pretty good start going up the hill, and then I ended up getting roosted, and I couldn't really see, so I had to pull a tear off, and I ended up coming out, like you said, 6th or 7th, right behind Joel. And I was just following him, and I, made some quick passes on the first lap, and I think I was like maybe 5th behind Wesley Wolf. And then I just kept really, riding my own pace for, I think it was like 2 or 3 laps. And then all of a sudden it just started downpouring. And it was raining, pretty hard at first. It was manageable, but the track was getting, slick, wet. And then all of a sudden it just started downpouring, like some pretty heavy rain. And I had to take my goggles off, and it was honestly so hard to see, even to just like go slow and ride. But with your goggles off and the rain in your eyes, it was extremely hard. But yeah, my bike ended up shutting off uphill. There was 3 doubles, and it shut off on the second one. And I was just in my head, I was like, there is no way this happened to me like it did at Ironman last year.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit upset, but I remembered I was at the mechanics area last year. Mark took my filter off, tipped the bike up, and put the filter back on and tried to start it. So I pulled the seat off, took the filter off, tipped the bike up, put the seat back on. I left the filter off, and Mark probably wouldn't recommend that, but it was pretty much just like desperate. I didn't want to lose that many points because everybody that I'm close to in points was still going. So I was like, this is pretty crucial moment right here for me. But yeah, I tipped my bike back down, and then somebody rolled up, which was my brother, and he was like, "Hey, do you want me to push you up the hill?" And I'm like, "No, get out of here," because I mean his bike was still running, and at that time I was like really surprised to see how many bikes were still going.
Mhm.
So yeah, I told him to go. I turned my bike back down the hill, pushed it down. I tried the e-start, it wouldn't work. And I bump started it, and honestly, the thing ran really good as soon as I started it. Um, and at first, I was just taking it really slow, really cautious. And when I would look ahead, I didn't really see anybody. And then I started seeing, some of the guys that were at the back of the pack before the rain. So I was like, I got to be making some progress. And then a couple laps in, my bike's still running really good. I'm trying to, manage it, not hit as many water puddles as I can. And then I look up and I remember Chad leading the race, and I see Chad. So, I catch him, pass him. And then I, just keep riding, trying to manage it and make it through the rain. And I start hitting all the jumps and really, flowing with the track. And then on the last lap, it was Michael Allred and Joel right on the new triple before the off camber. And I saw it was
Yeah.
Joel, and I was like, I know this guy's got to be up here. Like he's either winning the thing or, in second. And I take the high line on the off camber. I think I went through like a pond of water, a couple ponds on the top, but I made the pass and I won the race. And yeah, that was really special because, my bike shut off and my bike shut off first last year, but it wouldn't refire. But it started this year, and to win something like that, I know it's, not a legit race, but it still matters to me, and the points that I gained from it are, really good. And, it puts me in a really good spot. So yeah, it was an amazing moto for me, and, something really special.
Yeah, man. So I got to disagree a little bit though, because I know that there's people out there that don't believe that the mud races are real authentic races. But for me, man, like every single dude on the line, 16, 17 guys, whatever it was, wanted to execute your day the way that you did. Like in my mind, especially the way that you were consistent in both motos, fast as can be, like late in that race, you were going a minute to 2 minutes a lap faster than anybody on the racetrack. Like to me, that's so legit. So, so yeah, like I feel like you really stepped up to the plate and grabbed the bull by the horns there. And to think that you ripped the air filter off and we're navigating that with no air filter, but at the same time, if the air filter's soaked, like the thing's not going to run. So it does make a little sense. It's just a little bit of a gamble if the thing's going to make it till the end or not.
And a funny story about that is Aaron Salinas had to stop because I was in the middle of the track and he tried to turn around me, and his bike ended up shutting off, and he pulled up next to me, and he was watching me work on the bike, and he was just like, what is this guy doing, sort of. So I was like, hey man, pull your seat off and pull the filter off. And he was like, how do I pull the filter off? I was like, just yank that thing off, like it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter at this point. And I was assuming that his motor was probably in pretty bad shape too. And I'm pretty sure he did the same thing as me, and he ended up, finishing the race or at least making more laps. So, it was really cool. And during the race, like once I got refired, I was just messing with people when I would, pass them or if they passed me. So, it was a fun race. And like I said, it wasn't, really legit or whatever. It was legit. It was just, to win in a dry track, is a lot better feeling. But, to win in the rain and be the one, when their bike dies first, it's still really special to me. And like you said, to beat, Joel and Chad at any track at any time is still a big deal. And I'm fortunate that I've done it twice this year.
Well, man, also the way that you went about it. I mean, to think about like, so in mud races, there's strategy involved too. Like it can be harder on your mind than a normal race, and because you're stressing things, you're worried about if it's going to make it or not. And then to have the headiness that you had, like had you not tipped your bike up, had you not ripped the filter off, it would have been a DNF just like so many other dudes had. So for you to do that and then race from ninth, your brother was ahead of you with 3 laps to go, and you go from 9th to 1st to win this thing. Man, it's amazing. So I was going to ask you, obviously, at what point did you believe that catching Joel was a possibility? Seemed like that was very late, just with a couple corners to go. You see a glimpse of him. And I don't know, I saw Gloop's video this morning on the ride. I watched it on the treadmill, and I didn't know like if Joel's bike was either just barely making it or if he was trying to limp it to the finish line, whatever it was. But either way, you and your brother both, the pace that you two were running late in that race, I don't feel like anybody had a chance.
Yeah, no. I don't know what was wrong with Joel's bike. I think he was just trying to manage where he was at, and he felt comfortable. I think a lot of people thought I was a lap down.
Yeah.
I don't know how the riders thought that. Maybe the mechanics told them. I'm not sure. But honestly, I never went a lap down to the leader. I know that for a fact.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It was just so hard to tell who was who. And he told me after the race, if he would have known it was me or, I was on the lead lap, he would have tried a little bit harder.
Right.
But like, to be honest with you, when I was telling you I was looking forward, I just saw somebody in front of me, and then I just, tried my hardest to catch them. Mm-hmm. If it was a position, that I passed or they were a lap down, it is what it is. But yeah, it was so hard to tell who was who. There was so much water and so much rain coming down, and everybody's bike was, so hard to identify. Yeah. But it was awesome. Just a race I'll never forget, and something that was really crazy.
These mud races too, just like you said, I mean, these are races that people remember for forever. Otherwise, these status quo races can kind of blend together. They can maybe get forgotten over time. This is not going to be one of those races that gets forgotten over time. And yeah, like, not a surprise, Bryce, that you maybe weren't even on the mechanics radars with a couple laps to go, because yes, you were in second as you took the white flag, but with 2 laps to go, when the 2 lap board came out, you were 2.5 minutes behind Joel. So, I mean, it's nuts to think that you made up that much time late in that race. So you talked about the roost. It was a shame that your bike ended up being covered, because you had the coolest looking bike of the weekend. Ian had that thing looking amazing, man. It was incredible to see. And the other question I had on my sheet here. So we heard, the story. I had heard the story of you and your brother checking on each other, whatever it was during the race. So to hear that Cody did that to you, pretty darn cool. But I was going to ask how he factored in, because then you found yourself racing with him. Like I said, he was ahead of you with 3 laps to go there. You guys were in 8th and 9th. So it's almost like you guys linked up, because again, you two were faster by far than anybody else on the racetrack. And there's a photo of you two charging together. Your mom sent it to me. So I wondered how your brother factored in there, like take me through the pass on him, or however that worked out.
Yeah. So it was after the finish line. You went over that little roller, and then went past the old mechanics area. And unfortunately, he was pretty far in front of me right before we hit that, but he was taking the smooth line, and I felt so bad because he just, tried to help me out. But I was like, I sort of cut over on him and, tried to take the smooth line with him. I really didn't intend on to roost him or anything. I don't really care to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up roosting him, and I was like, I turned around after and was like, my bad. I'm not trying to, really roost you. I could care less about that right now. I'm just trying to finish the race with you. But it was just an in the moment thing. But that was something really cool too, to see my brother get on the podium. 3rd, that's like I said, on the podium, that was to me, to, have both of us up there and him get up there as well. I know he, works out the same as I do, trains just as many days as I do. So that was super special for me, just seeing him get up there and, him getting to, experience that, because it's been a while. But yeah, that was awesome. It was fun, racing with him, and he got to finish as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That was literally, I will read word for word. The next sentence on my page here of my notes is, how cool was it to share the moto podium with your brother after finishing that first moto in first and third? Man, the photos are amazing. To think about standing on the podium with your brother in a pro race is pretty incredible. So, so then moving on to Moto 2, then you rip a much better start. You're second, you're kind of all by yourself. You know, Chad kind of does his thing. You find yourself kind of all alone in second. You're there wire to wire. So at what point did you find yourself starting to think about the overall win? Because I got to believe that was on your mind. You know how things played out in the first moto. You controlled your own destiny. In the second moto, they're running second. So how early into this race did you start thinking about the overall?
3/4 of the way into the first lap.
I'm sure you did.
Jeffrey made a mistake on those doubles up the hill. I jumped by him. And then as soon as I did that, I was like, you know, Chad's riding really good he was already like 3 seconds ahead.
Right.
And I felt really comfortable where I was at. You know, I had goggles on my head still. There were some tear offs. So I felt really comfortable. You know, I just pushed a little bit, nothing too crazy. Because I'd blown a tire off the bead in the rain before. So everywhere was super rutted. I would just try to tiptoe on the stuff I could go fast. You know, I'd really try to lay it down. But yeah, that whole moto, I just really tried to play it safe. And I'm pretty sure it started raining in that one as well.
It did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I had a couple tear offs. I, used them. And then I had mud smearing all over my goggles. In the first moto, I scratched my eye. So, I didn't really want to take the goggles off because it would put wind on my eye.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up taking my goggles off and just, really managed the second place. Jeffrey made a really late moto push that was pretty intense. And I didn't really feel, like I wanted to push it too much harder.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kept a good gap. Chad rode really well. I saw he was tripling after the finish line once it dried up a little bit. I didn't even catch on to that. But yeah, it was a super good moto for me. And like I said, after the first lap or right before the end, I was thinking about, like you're 2-1 right now. Chad had a 5th and a 1st. Like we're really good where we're at. But I'll tell you, halfway through, I looked back and I did see Joel and I was like, all right, Bryce, like you got to pick it up a little bit because he looked like he was riding really well. And Jeffrey was starting to pick it up, like I said. But yeah, it was a super good moto, honestly. One of the easier ones this year for me because I started up front. I usually tend to start in the back for some reason this year. But, yeah, it was really fun and just, to get a second and first in the first one is something crazy. It feels like a really good moto day for me, even racing, all the best guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So perfectly executed by you. You made it easy on yourself with that good start there in the second moto. And yeah, I mean, I love to see, we saw it in the first moto, you revving the bike. I love seeing you get pumped like that. And I assumed that very early on, you were going to be thinking about that overall there in the second moto. And, so you've crossed the finish line, you win this thing. And I'm anxiously watching to see what's going to happen with your brother then, because going into that last lap, he was in podium position. And I got the sense even early in the race, I'm like, it's going to come down to Kevin Saar and Cody Ford. And Cody, I was very closely watching that battle there. Like I said, he enters that last lap in podium position. Michael Allred makes a pass that kind of affects everything there, throws the math off, and now Cody and Kevin are going to tie for third overall there, and it's gonna the tiebreaker is going to go to Kevin. So as stoked as I was for you, I ended up being bummed for Cody at the same time with the way that it played out. I was going to be, however third place worked, I was going to be stoked for whoever got it because it's very cool for Kevin to get it too, but I was going to be bummed for the dude that finished fourth. So yeah, I did find myself stoked for you, but bummed for Cody because he came so freaking close to the second overall podium of his career. Fourth overall in the day is still amazing, but man, it had to be a little bittersweet for the Ford camp.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's an awesome day for Cody. I wish he would have got the podium as well. He rode really good in the first one. Yeah. I'm not sure where he placed in the second one, but man, Kevin Saar, he's a good rider, and I feel like in qualifying, he showed some speed. He was like 0.03 of a second off of me.
He did.
And when I went to Europe, I was there with Chad and Joel. a lot of people weren't there. But I'm telling you, those guys over there are really fast. There's two of them that are, extremely good. And I think once Kevin gets comfortable over here, the people are going to, start to see that and figure that out really quick.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to see, Kevin get up there. I wish my brother, would have been up there as well. But yeah, it was a good day for me and my brother and, everybody who helps us. And, Mark did a great job. We changed our whole program pretty much Thursday before the race, put in a new motor, a harness. We've just been having some problems this year, but I mean, it's just everybody's working together. We're trying things. We changed gearing throughout the day. We groove tires,
Yeah.
I just feel really comfortable with where we're at. Mark's set on his ways, but he's really opened up and I feel like we get along really well. Just so I feel like all this is happening, not just because of me, because there are people, putting in a lot of effort and a lot of work. My bike, I feel, works amazing. There's just so many things that have changed this year. I went to CST tires. There's just so many reasons, and I've really dedicated everything to this, and it's all really paying off.
Yeah, I think saying it's paying off, Bryce, is an understatement. I mean, you sit now 21 points up on Chad with 2 races, 4 motos to go for this race for second in points. And man, what would finishing second, sandwiched between the 2 legends of Joel Hattrick and Chad Wienen, mean to you? I mean, like I said, and like you said earlier, you're in a really, really good spot now. You came in 15 points up. Now you're 21 points up with 4 gate drops remaining, man. What would that mean to you to finish between those 2 guys? Because you have put together a freaking masterful season.
Yeah, that would mean a lot to me. It would mean I, was really consistent throughout this season. And I just put a lot of work in. I know both of them had a little mishap at Gatorback, but just to be even close to Joel, I mean, 40 points isn't really close, but it's not terribly far. And to be in front of Chad, everybody knows, in my opinion, that's the greatest, if not, one of the greatest. So to be even close to them, just growing up in 2012, 2014, watching him and John Natale race, and then, Joel and him becoming big competitors, it's just something so special. And I don't think a lot of people at the Nationals, were around in 2012, but, Chad's a great rider. He's been in this a long time.
Yeah.
And, it's not easy, even if, I haven't beat him in a race yet, or, I have now, but he's legit. And he's in it for the long run, even with the tip over at Gatorback. He's, a great competitor. And it's just, really special to be up there racing them. And I'm very grateful to be, ahead of him in points. And I just want to keep being consistent and riding the best that I can. And I feel like I could possibly get second, if everything goes the way it's been going.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think that I could have said it any better, man. You put together an awesome season so far. So kind of finishing up here, I did via text, but allow me to congratulate you on being selected back to the Team USA Quad Cross of Nations team. Seemingly so fitting, Bryce. I mean, especially with the season that you put together, like we just touched on. Entering 2023, you entered with 8 career podium finishes, and since then you've nearly doubled that number, now up to 14, including 6 top 3 overall finishes in 8 tries this season. You've been amazingly consistent, and obviously the first 2 moto wins and overall wins of your career. Hard to see a team without you on it. And I believe the story goes that you went to Italy to watch Team USA a few years back, and now you're going to return as a team representative entrusted with the task of defending the title that you guys won last year. So I haven't talked to you yet since the honor was announced of you getting on Team USA. What does this mean to you to return to it?
It means a lot to me. Going over there last year and just getting selected by the people that select the team, to get a call like that is something that 3 people get, and it's not guaranteed every year. But just to get chosen for that is something at the start of my amateur and youth career, I could have never even imagined that. But when they started going and when they went to Italy and then I went to, Czech last year, and finally got a chance, it's something, I really don't want to miss out on. Just the atmosphere over there, the racing over there, racing for 30 minutes, and just racing a bunch of different countries, a bunch of people you don't know is something, really special. And to represent the USA, it really means a lot because I don't want to let our country down, any of the racers, and being selected is a lot of pressure, but once you get over there, it's something that I just try to soak in. And I haven't really thought about it a ton yet. I'm just trying to get through this season. I've read, a lot of stuff on Facebook. I don't let it bother me anymore, but just keeping my head clear. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And I'm really excited to go over there. I won there last year. I won a moto. So I'm just looking to, keep grinding out this ATV MX season, and then just, work and be ready for the Quad Cross of Nations.
Yeah, I don't know about any of the negative stuff you're referencing. I never saw any of it.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad. That's how it should be. What an honor for you. It's the coolest thing. And it'll be pretty cool to have 1, 2, or 3 on your bike this year. That'll be pretty cool too.
Yep. It'll be super cool. That's something we didn't get to do last year because they didn't go in 2021. But yeah, it'll be super cool. I'm super excited. The bikes look really cool over there. They look sort of like this weekend's bikes, but just, USA fully. So it's going to be awesome. I heard Italy is pretty nice over there. I didn't go. My brother went.
Oh, you didn't?
I was
okay, got it.
I think I was like 14 or 15, just a little too young, a little too high maintenance. But last year I went to Como. Italy is super nice. The food's good there. And I heard the track was really, really pretty fun. So just really looking forward to it. I just have 2 more races to finish. And then I'll start worrying about that and, testing and getting ready to go over there and defend what we won last year and hopefully do it again.
Yeah, man. So one last question for you. How did you learn that you were on the team?
I think I got a text from Hard Whipple.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But I'm not completely sure. Like, I've been really just focused on myself this year. I like just working, staying consistent. I try not to look at my phone too much, but I don't know, I don't know exactly how maybe Izza told me. No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And, but no,
the way that you're doing everything is working out. Obviously, nose to the grindstone, head down, charging forward. It's all paying off. And buddy, I'm glad that you looked at your phone enough to answer my text on jumping on the show here with us. I don't want to take too much of your time, but we had to chat with you following the second victory of your career, and I'm so damn happy for you. I'm so damn proud of you. Congrats on the win. And I have to believe that, basking in this glory has been a little nicer this week than it would have been had you not won this past week in that Pleasure Valley. It's got to make this week a little bit sweeter, I would think.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely does. And then after the race, I was really looking forward to making a good fireworks show, but unfortunately it rained.
Yeah.
And it ruined a lot of fireworks, but that's all fine with me as long as I win the moto, but no, yeah, that was super awesome to win there. It was really special. And I also won something super cool. I'll send you a picture later.
Okay.
Last year, Jeff Cernick made a bet with me. If I win at Pleasure Valley, he will sell me the 1-of-1 Travis Pastrana BBR pit bike. So I ended up winning that.
Oh my gosh.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, you had some extra incentive there then.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Once I won, he was like, I have to sell it to you now. But no, that's super special. But thank you so much for having me on the show. It really means a lot to me. And this year I've been just, really grinding and trying to do my best. And I feel I've done really good at that. But thank you so much for everything you do, keeping everyone updated and just, allowing me to be on the show.
Yeah, pal, you deserve it. You deserve the coverage. I'm stoked to have you on every time you do. So congrats again. Thanks so much for joining me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and the crew at Briarcliff.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Cody.
Thanks so much, pal. That's your Pleasure Valley winner, Bryce Ford, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, presented by Caldera Lab and their high-performance skincare products. Get 20% off with code DiggingDeep20 at calderalab.com/DiggingDeep20. Thanks so much, pal. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DiggingDeep20.
Hey everyone, this is Larry Mills, president of DP Brakes North America and proud partner of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. We at DP Brakes are a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology, dominating the ATV world for decades by supporting the best four-wheel racers on the planet. This year's lineup includes Jeff Rastrelli, Mark Baldwin and Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, and many more, including Mr. Digging Deep himself, Cody Jansen. Plus all the top 17 GNCC pros such as 7-time champion Walker Fowler, Bryson Neal, Hunter Hart, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Adam McGill, and previous champion Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer. Products that ultimately help place them on top of the podium week after week. DP brakes are available through www.dp-brakes.com, or you can purchase them through your local Parts Unlimited stocking dealer, or you can even message us, myself, Larry Mills, or DP Brakes on Instagram or Facebook. And if you have any questions about product or sponsorship support, please ask us. We are waiting for you. Join the best ATV riders in the world equipped with DP Brakes, and have a great year, everyone.
Nearing 2 decades into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back and better than ever, continuing to make major waves in the ATV world. For the 3rd consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for 2-time champ Joel Hetrick. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of industry-leading products available for all makes and models. Head over to factory43atv.com today. First impressions matter. What's the first thing that someone notices about you? In most cases, it's your face and most importantly, your skin. If you aren't already, it's time to put your best face forward. How do you do that? By adding in a skincare routine. And it's not as hard as you think. You just don't have the right tools for the job. Until now. Clinically proven to reduce wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging, Caldera Lab is the leader in men's skincare and is here to save the day. Use our exclusive code DiggingDeep20 at calderalab.com to enjoy 20% off their best products. Caldera Lab creates high-performance men's skincare products, and the regiment leads off their product lineup, a twice-a-day routine to transform your skin. Men's skincare has never been easier with the help of Caldera Lab and the regiment. Inside this bundle, you'll find face wash that leaves all skin types feeling refreshed, hydrating daily moisturizer, and a rejuvenating before bed multifunctional serum. Caldera Lab is made with top-tier ingredients and is a great addition to your daily routine. It takes less than a minute both morning and night, and shout out to all the vet riders out there, it's here to reduce your wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging. Get 20% off with code DiggingDeep20 at calderalab.com. That's CALDERA lab.com. That's 20% off at calderalab.com by using code DiggingDeep20. Jump into skin and first impression royalty with Caldera Lab. Back here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, reviewing Pleasure Valley 2023. So, Brian, we just heard from Bryce Ford there. I don't really know what else to say about this guy. We've been talking about him already on this episode, of course, but I don't know what there's left to say. His standout 1-2 performance in adverse conditions at Pleasure Valley, he executed perfectly. It earned him the 2nd overall victory of his professional career, and he's put together a season for the ages, really. I mean, the growth that we saw from him this season is amazing. He entered 2023 with 8 career podium finishes total. Since then, he's nearly doubled his number of podiums to 14, racking up 6 top 3 finishes in the 8 tries this season, including the 2 first moto wins of his career and the first 2 overall victories of his career, just at 21 years young. What an amazing season he's had. Awesome weekend this weekend, another overall win. But like I said, Brian, I don't know what else to say about this guy. He took a bigger leap this year than I think any of us could have expected, because the class is so gnarly. That battle week after week for the podium spot is so gnarly. Yet here, Bryce Ford has done it 6 of 8 times and earned 2 overall podiums. Bravo, Bryce Ford. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can't say that he didn't put in the work. You can't say that he's not out there grinding during the week, putting in the effort. I'm sure he's doing everything that he's supposed to be doing, because if there's any naysayers or somebody that's not a fan of Bryce, he's proving right now that, he's a contender. It doesn't matter. This he's got a drive and a passion that he's willing himself up there. He's putting himself in the right position. I mean, you can get lucky to a certain point sometimes, but when you're consistent like that and you're making good decisions, you're doing all the right things, we're seeing it right in front of us, the results from that. So like you said, kudos to Bryce. I mean, hey, you put in the work, you put in the effort, you're earning everything that you have coming to you, and good for you. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to watch his journey and see him develop as, a young man and a rider. It's amazing. Like I said, I'm very stoked for him. That's so rad to be that young, and he's a sponge. It seems like, he's not being cocky and not listening or watching what these guys are doing. He's watching what they're doing and doing his best to imitate it so that he can be there. So, Like I said, props to him, kudos to him. I mean, I'm a fan. Go Bryce.
Yeah, he wants it so damn bad. And like you said, he's willing it. He's willing himself there. I love to see it. I don't see how anybody could say a cross word about the kid. I just find him to be so likable. And I'd love to see the success out of him. So Bryce gets the win. Chad Wienen ends up second overall. And the battle for third came down to the wire. Entering the last lap, Cody Ford was running an overall podium position. We would have saw the 2 brothers up there, but with a pass from Michael Allred, 5-time European champion Kevin Saar earned himself a 3rd overall podium finish on the day. 4.6 moto scores were enough to earn him 3rd overall in just his 8th career event here in the United States. Brian, man, love to see it for Kevin Saar. You commented on it a little bit already, but man, I'm stoked for him. Another guy that I find to be so likable. Stoked to talk to him here on the podcast, but man, I love to see that. Like you said, people will be happy all across the world. Tons of Europeans were stoked to see him do this. I remember running a poll early in the year, probably before the opener, kind of questioning, wondering what people thought he would do this year. And there was a percentage of people that thought he would get a podium, and he proved them right on Saturday. I love to see it.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, and obviously he's a champion overseas to even come over here and throw his hat in the ring. You know that the guy's confident, that he's capable, and he's coming here to, kind of hone his craft and prove his skill with the best in the world. So, it kind of amazes me. He always seems to be under the radar. He's there, but he's just kind of a little bit under the radar, even in the Pro-Am classes, when he got some wins and he's up there battling. I mean, I love to watch him ride. He's a great rider. He's got finesse. He's got style. Yeah. So, and he's running for the music team over there, and CD and I race together. So, I got a little bit of a rivalry there, but it's a great family. And so I'm happy to see them be successful with that. And, it's great that they're able to help him chase his dreams and goals over here. So it's just a great situation.
Mm-hmm. You can see that he's a professional. You can see the way he carries himself. And just, I love to see that. You can tell that he's the cream of the crop from Europe, just in the way that he carries himself. So let's talk to him. Let's get Kevin Saar in here to chat about a day that he'll truly never forget, I'm sure, at Pleasure Valley 2023. All right, guys, I've been anxiously awaiting the return of this next guest to our podcast, and there's no better time than undoubtedly the best weekend of his career here in the States. Brought to you by DP Brakes, the world leader in sintered brake technology, available at www.dp-brakes.com. Purchase at your local dealer or message us for their contact info today. Please welcome third place podium finisher at Pleasure Valley, five-time European champion from Estonia, Mr. Kevin Saar. Kevin, welcome back to Digging Deep. Thanks so much for being here, buddy, and congrats on being a pro-class podium finisher here in the States. You have to be so very happy. How does it feel?
Hello, Cody. Thanks for having me. And yes, it was a special weekend for me for sure, and it's the one that I'm not forgetting. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to forget that feeling. So we'll get into it a little bit more. But buddy, so back prior to Daytona in the preseason, there was so much talk about where you're going to fit into the pro class and how everything was going to go. And we put a poll on Instagram, and 23% of people had guessed that you were going to get a podium this season. You proved them right on Saturday, but did you truly believe that a podium was possible? We were 7 rounds in at this point, so you had done a lot of racing in the pro class here. Did you think it was possible?
To be honest, not really. No. Of course, I had some luck with the weather, and no, I wasn't expecting the podium this year. That's for sure. And to have it now, it's just crazy.
Well, the thing that stood out to me with your day on Saturday is you were so rock solid. I mean, you were fast in both motos. You were racy all day long, 7th quickest in qualifying, which was really impressive. I felt like that was a step better than what we've seen up to that point. And that's why that kind of resonates with me, right? Because you were fast all day. You were fast in qualifying before it even got crappy out. So then you fast forward to the motos, you survive in that first moto and finish 4th. 6th in Moto 2 was enough to make it happen. So tell me about your day a little bit and what racing in those treacherous conditions was like, because especially that first moto when the storm came down. But man, you guys didn't get dealt very easy cards on Saturday. That's for sure.
Yes, no, I wasn't feeling the best before the practices, but I was feeling really good on the track. So yeah, I got 7th from the qualifier, which is, like you said, the best this season. So I was feeling really good going to the races. I felt good. My gap to the front was the closest it's ever been. So
yeah,
I was feeling good. First race started off pretty good. I was, I think, 8th or 9th. And then the crazy rain game.
What was it like riding in that terrible rain?
I took it easier at this moment on. So I just wanted to finish. I knew it's going to be just survival mode. So
yeah,
I tried to go really easy on the water holes, and somehow I managed to finish it. My bike started to also make some weird noises at the last lap. So it was really sketchy.
So you held on and finished 4th, which was incredible. So then I was hearing that everybody basically had to change engines in between races. So is that what you guys did? Did you have to change the engine on that thing, or did you run the one that was in it?
We were going to change. They already started to change, but I said it's not too bad. It's just last lap. It started to take some water in. So
okay.
It started after we washed the bike, and we decided to go with it, and it worked out.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely worked out. So then fast forward to Moto 2, another good start. You're hanging right in there, kind of around the top 5. You actually ran in the top 5 for a lot of that moto there. So that was really good. And then Janusa gets by you, and still, again, you're very much within that realm. And it started to come to me that, this podium spot might be between you and Cody Ford. And I don't know if that was something that you were thinking while you were out there on the racetrack, But the closer we got to the end, I'm like, man, any move here is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's going to be the tiebreaker. And on the last lap, I believe it was Michael Allred made a pass on Cody Ford. That was the clincher for you. But did you know how close you were to the podium? Was the overall podium on your mind? I mean, tell me what you're thinking during that second moto, because, you're obviously racing the best of the best dudes. It's an intense race. The conditions aren't very good. And I have to believe the podium at least had to be on your mind a little bit.
No, not at all, to be honest. I didn't
Really?
know anything about the overall results, and I wasn't thinking even once. I was finishing the second race, and I was riding back to the truck. I didn't know. I thought I was getting like top 5. I was really happy with that already.
Okay.
And they invited me back. I didn't know, so yeah, that was really crazy. But about the second race, my starts were not so good there because it was on a concrete, and it's first time for me, so I struggled a bit there.
You guys don't do that at all in Europe, huh?
No, it was first time for me, and I struggled a bit, to be honest. But first turns, I made some good passes there.
Got it. So yeah, the concrete start thing isn't something we do a ton here either, obviously, as you've learned over the last, couple months here, but yeah, it is a totally different vibe. So you survive that and put yourself in good position, obviously, as the race goes on there. So tell me about, what you're thinking then, because I remember hearing them on the radio say, get Kevin up here, get Kevin up here. You're going back to the pit. You don't even know that you made it to the podium. So tell me what that rush of emotion was like when you realized that you actually are going to finish on the overall podium for the day.
Oh, it was unreal. I was already so happy. I thought I got top 5 at least. So to get top 5 Pro Glass, I was so happy already. And then I just looked back and I saw Brett riding his speed bike to grab me, and it was unreal. Just, I have no words to describe this feeling. I think it's something amazing.
And I'm sure he and his family, I'm sure everybody was so happy for you. And I think this is something that's really cool to me that I've picked up on throughout the season here. Like, everybody here, Kevin, is cheering for you. I don't know if you get that sense, but like everybody here in the States is pulling for you. I think that all of us are so stoked to have you here. And, they hype up you and your accolades at every race over the PA and all these things. And I really think it's the coolest thing. Like, everybody is, 1, stoked to have you here, and 2, is so happy to see you doing as well as you are, because take even the podium out of it. Even before this weekend, every weekend I'm thinking to myself, like, man, Kevin's going to these racetracks. He has never been to these tracks before. These other dudes he's racing against have done a zillion laps on them. And you show up and you look like you belong every single weekend. And now this weekend was even a step better. Every time you were on the racetrack, you were better than anytime previously really to this race. And now you clinch this podium. I really wanted you to like think about the fact and hope that you realized how stoked we all are for you and how stoked we are to have you here. Like, man, I hope that this has been the experience of a lifetime for you, because even as ATV racing and ATV motocross fans, like, you add so much to our series by being here. And I want to thank you for that, because it's been like, I've had so much fun following you and your racing and your success this season, man. It's just been so much fun. Like, I'm so stoked for you.
Thank you so much. It's just giving me goosebumps to think about everything I have right now, and racing here is just unbelievable. And to have, as you said, I have good support already from Europe, and people here are really friendly with me, and I haven't seen anyone like being mad or anything. So it's just amazing.
So tell me about, a couple of weeks ago, you went back to Estonia, right? And raced a race back there and then came back over here. So how crazy was that? Or was it not that big of a deal to go back and forth?
Yeah, it was planned. I had to go because I had some exams from my university to finish this.
Got it.
So that's why I went. And at the same time, there were European Championship round.
Well, that worked out great then.
Yeah, just went there, raced, and it was a bit hard. The traveling part is just so long; it takes time, and it makes you tired, but in the end, it was worth it. Yeah.
So explain to my listeners, like, how long of a flight is it, or how long is the travel duration, like from here to Estonia? How long does that take?
It normally takes 3 flights from my home to here, so, and overall it's like 24 hours of traveling.
Oh, wow.
Wow, with connections.
Wow, that's
so
nuts.
It takes some time, and the time difference is also crazy. It's 7 hours.
You basically, yeah, we talked about that. It was a big jump because at first your girlfriend wasn't here with you, right? And now it seems like she's been here for a lot of your time spent here in the States, and having that normalcy and having somebody to go about all this craziness with you, like that's got to be pretty comforting. Like you're not going through this alone when she's by your side.
Yeah, exactly. And I had my dad at Quad Creek and some
nice.
friends from Estonia, but they are coming here and traveling back next week. So it's really hard for them because they are trying to get used to the time zone and then just fly back.
Yeah, that's a big time difference there.
We are here for a long time, so I'm getting used to it, everything.
Right.
I like to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we love having you here, pal. So you've put together a really solid season. You've been battling for top 10 in points now in recent weeks here. So how I want to ask this is, has the US experience been what you expected? Has it been something different than what you expected? I mean, how would you explain that to me?
It's everything and more I have expected. So
wow,
it's been a struggle sometimes, but to have my girlfriend here, we are doing it together. So it's nothing too bad, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. I think that I speak for all of us in the ATV motocross community that any struggles or whatever that you've handled them with grace. I mean, you've haven't showed that to any of us. So how does that work? So I was in the gym literally this morning. I was in the gym. I was on the treadmill. I was thinking about knowing that I was going to talk to you today at some point. And I thought to myself, like, how does that work with like driving? Like, do you have to get a driver's license here, or how does that work?
Luckily, I just had to fill in one form, like international license.
Oh, so really?
My driving license from back home is good for driving here.
It just transfers. Okay, well, that's cool. I never knew how that worked. So because filling the listeners, and you had told me you guys were traveling, whether it was yesterday or whatever day it was. So I'm like, man, that sparked a thought in my head. I'm like, well, I wonder how that works. So not that big of a deal. So you're riding for the Music Racing and Repair team, of course. Brett and yourself joined the show the last time you were on. You jumped on here together with us. So how has that been riding for them? I love those guys. I think you've probably heard me talk up those guys enough, but wanted to kind of question you on how great of an experience or how good of an experience it's been with them. And you actually said that you're coming to us live right now from West Virginia, back at Brett's place. So I believe that you're staying there in between races as well. So kind of fill me in on the experience with the Music Racing team and like what your schedule is in between races going back there, what practicing is like, and training. I know you're a runner and stuff like that. So fill me in on what the experience with the music team is like, and then kind of having your base in West Virginia, what that's like.
It's been so much fun. I'm staying here near Brett's. I'm like 10 minutes away from him.
Okay.
And he and his dad are just amazing. They are so friendly. They are helping with everything. They are making it so easy for me. Mm-hmm. If I have anything, then I just talk with them and they help me. They don't ask anything. They just want to kill, and that's really important for me. I wouldn't have done it like just by myself, and mm-hmm. They are really important to me, and I would like to say big thanks to them. And it's just incredible what people they are.
Yeah, they are. You're right. They're truly the nicest people I think you'll ever find. When I was chatting with them at one of the recent races, I don't know which one it was, but they had so many great things to say about you. And I found myself saying the same things to them. I'm like, man, like It was Ironman. It was Ironman because I said to them, man, it's so much fun to watch Kevin on the hard packed corners, the way that you were, backing it in. And it was like poetry in motion. That was the phrase I used to them. It was just so much fun to watch you ride. And I just love to hear them talk you up. And man, it just seems like a match made in heaven between you guys. It just seems like it's been a perfect fit for both the team and you. And I didn't know how it was all going to work out. I mean, I was stoked with, I knew you were coming here. I worked with Brett on some sponsorship stuff and whatever. As it was coming together, he was so excited that it was coming together, but I didn't know, with their Honda people kind of, right? So you're riding the Yamaha, and I didn't know there was a little bit of change in the program there, but it sure has seemed to be man, like I said, like a perfect fit. And they're the kind of people that no matter what, they're going to make it work, like what great people to have in your corner.
Yes, they really like Hondas, that's for sure. Yeah. I think they would like me to see it on the Honda also.
Right. Well, you raced the Honda at that one race when you must have had a bike problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I had to race, but it felt good. I used to race Hondas like 5 or 6 years ago, so
yeah,
that wasn't nothing too new.
Yeah, I thought that. I knew I'd seen pictures of you on a Honda in the past, but I thought to myself, I'm like, man, Kevin is so gnarly. Like jumps on a totally different quad, like looks basically exactly the same. Man, it's awesome to see. So you raced the Honda there in Pro-Am. So tell me what that's been like racing Pro-Am as well. I was stoked to see you jump in there, 4 podiums and 5 tries, 1 win. In the race that you didn't finish on the podium, you came all the way back from a nasty crash. You were in last, race all the way up to finish 4th. I think these great Pro-Am finishes have to help your pro class finishes as well. I would think, like, even if not anything else, at least some confidence and running up front, standing on the podium, man. Like it wasn't long ago, and I was stoked to see you standing on the Pro-Am podium for the first time, and now you finished on the pro podium. So I'm sure that those two things are somewhat connected. But have you had some fun racing in the Pro-Am class as well this year?
It's really fun. That was the reason why we decided to race it, to get some gate drops and some good battles. Yeah. We were not planning to race it, but that underground after Saturday we just decided. Brett and CD asked me if I want to race. I said of course. So from there on we have been racing it.
Yeah, I've loved to see it, pal. I like I said, to see you, winning and seeing you on the podium at these races, man, it's been so much fun. I'm really glad that you jumped in there. I think it can only help. So let's quickly look to the future then. So 2 races left here in this 2023 ATV Motocross National Championship. What are your goals the last 2 events here? And then what are your thoughts on returning for another season in America in 2024? I mean, what are your thoughts on the rest of the season and next year?
I think my goal this year would be to finish top 10 in the overall championship in Pro class, and hopefully race for a championship in Pro. I'm not sure about the point system. I think they will take 1 race out of the series. So I wasn't racing Gatorback, so my 1-0 is coming out from there.
Yep.
And one good fact: 5 years ago, when I was racing Loretas in Pro-Am and Pro Sport, I got, I think, 9th and 10th place. Mm-hmm. So now 5 years later, fighting for podium positions, it's something I have dreamed of for a long time, and now it's coming reality.
Yeah, it's cool to see, pal. It really is. I think that's something that we've been focusing on a lot, is that Pro-Am championship, right? You're in that mix and you were getting hot. I didn't know, obviously losing an event this weekend didn't help when you had some points to make up there. But if you're new to the United States, but at the same time, you're a veteran, against some of those younger kids, right? Like your racecraft is so strong and you're so consistent and you bring it every weekend. So if you just keep running the speed that you're running and get the starts that you've been getting, especially in the Pro-Am class, and keep finishing up front, that championship might be in the mix for sure. But also top 10 in the pro class is really impressive. And I mean, do you have how do I want to ask this? I mean, do you have interest in coming back here next year? Because I feel like from my perspective, like anything you do this year has built such a awesome platform for what you could do possibly next year, right? Like think about the way that you would hit the ground running next year after all the learning you did this year. So, I mean, is that something you would like to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to come back, but it's not all on me. It depends on my sponsors from back home also. So
sure.
I think after the season, I'm flying back home, and then it takes a couple of weeks to figure everything out. And hopefully I will be back. And if there's any chance, I am trying to make it happen.
Awesome. Well, I love to hear that. I know I talked to the gentleman from Jay's Parts, right, at Sunset Ridge, and he came up to me, and man, he was so stoked to see you here and doing so well. I think he's a part of your program a little bit, right? And yeah, yep, man, super nice guy. I was stoked to meet him and have him introduce himself to me. And so many people, man, want to see you pull this off and want to see you back. I know early in the season, Brett and CD had already been saying to me, we really hope we get him back for another year. We really hope he does this again next year. So I think that a lot of people would love to chip in and see you come back. And if we can help in any way, we'd love to see that happen. But man, I'm really, really, really proud of you for all you've done this season. You still got some gate drops ahead of you, hopefully some success ahead of you, but we sure hope that you'll be back. But Kevin, congrats again on an outstanding performance on Saturday, a memory that you're going to cherish for forever. We were so stoked for you. I couldn't wipe the smile off my face. I was so happy to see you on the podium there. You can see the pure joy in your face in the photos. You are forever a pro class podium finisher here in America. And man, I can't thank you enough for joining me to talk about it a little bit, buddy. We're so proud of you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Music Racing for everything they have done for me this year. And they are already looking for next year. So they are asking me every race if I'm coming back. Unfortunately, I can't say yes right now, but hopefully I will say yes soon.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me on. It's been a fun time, and it's good to talk here.
Yeah, pal. Well, again, congratulations. We can't say congratulations enough. We're so happy for you, and we sure are hopeful that we're going to see you back here next year. But yeah, we're always cheering for you, pal, especially because you're a weekly lock for me in ATV fantasy. I know you know all about that. You finished in the top 10 last year, and you're a weekly lock for my team, pal. And I just can't thank you enough for performing for my team, obviously, but also can't thank you enough for a little time spent here with us. We'll cherish this for sure. Hopefully looking forward to doing this more in the future, and we'll plan to see you at Briarcliff.
Thank you so much for everything you do for ATV Motorverse. Thank you, Cody.
Thanks so much, pal. Congratulations, and we'll see you soon. That's Kevin Saar, brought to you by DP Brakes right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. Thanks so much, buddy. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Success in the ATVMX world is similar to what creates financial success as well. The right people, the right advice, and more importantly, hard work and the benefit of an ongoing relationship as situations change and adversity is experienced. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you reach your goals? Haymower Financial Group can create a personalized, goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. Call me, Scott Haymower, at Haymower Financial Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, at 920-338-8150. That's 920-338-8150. Offices located in beautiful De Pere, Wisconsin, with registrations and clients nationwide.
Headlined by their 4130 Chromoly, Launderville Steel and Concrete Supply is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products. This racing family-owned full metal service center and concrete product supplier comes with over 30 years of experience serving the entire United States from their central Midwest location. As the #1 choice for nationwide shipments and with available next-day delivery in select areas, LSE has you covered near or far. 4130 is not just the chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for an array of motorsports applications, but it is also the name of the newest addition to the Pro Paddock with riders Jaden JJ Launderville and Max Lindquist, introducing the new 4130 Motorsports team. Launderville Steel offers a large selection of material for any project, including their concrete division that can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. For a quote or more info, visit laundervillesteel.com today or give them a call at 715-675-6193. That's 715-675-6193. Here at Digging Deep, we have an obvious passion for ATVs and pridefully enjoy sharing the sport's history. Since 2019, when the podcast was born, we've been working to partner with individuals who share our passion, but one man and his vision had been missing from our partnership group. Until now. When it comes to the sport's history, the hallowed grounds of Binky's Forever ATC Museum has it all. Binky Tapscott's mind-blowing collection of 3- and 4-wheelers has preserved history by spanning all makes and models from Honda 3-wheelers in chronological order to unique builds that shaped ATV racing as we know it, like Doug Gust's iconic DRZ-powered hybrid thumper and everything in between. There's no denying Binky's passion, a passion that we certainly relate to here at Digging Deep. Binky's goal is to share his amazing collection with fellow enthusiasts by making his prized possessions accessible to the public via scheduled visits. Follow Forever ATC Museum on Facebook and watch foreveratc.com for further updates on possibly getting a chance to see Binky's Forever ATC Museum for yourself. We are proud to welcome Binky's Forever ATC Museum to the Digging Deep family. As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Jay Goebel and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. All right, guys, back here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, finishing up our coverage of Pleasure Valley. Let's go down the results sheet here, Brian, as we kind of finish up here of our coverage of the pro class. So we know Bryce Ford, he gets the win. This was huge for him in the battle for second and third in points with Chad Whedon. He came into the weekend 15 points up, and I kind of found myself doing the math that, you know, if he were to finish 3-3 every time and Chad finished 2-2 every time, which we know never happens. That's why I don't get ahead of myself on stuff like that. But I'm like, if he can stay on the podium, he will certainly give himself a shot to hold on to that second place in points. Well, I don't know if anybody expected him to make up 6 points on Chad this weekend with his overall win. So huge weekend in the points for Bryce Ford. Now 21 points up, which is 4 motos remaining on Chad Whedon. Chad Whedon, though, we heard from him on the podium there. He wished, he kind of found himself thinking what could have been, because he was first in that first moto. Then he was second before presumably something happened with his quad or whatever, when conditions really deteriorated and resulted for a 5th for him. Otherwise, either a 1-1 or a 2-1 would have got him the first overall win of his season. And now, Brian, I don't know. I mean, with Briarcliff, that's a very Joel Hetrick-like track, and Loretta's traditionally, Joel's been really good there too. Never count the big man out, of course, but it might be tough to see Chad Whedon getting an overall now with just 2 races left. His best opportunity would have been this past weekend, and it might be tough to see him pulling off one of these things here down the stretch now.
Well, I'll say this too, with Bryce getting that win, giving him any confidence can be dangerous.
It's true, because
now you just made this kid even hungrier, because he's got his second win of the season, and you know I kind of get the feeling he likes those. So I think that he may throw a little bit more effort out there and really put in some extra time, because he's got to be on some sort of high from that. And then, you know, I'm going to say, like you said, Joel's really good at those tracks, and I'm sure Joel is not happy with this last weekend, because it's also Pleasure Valley. He seems to have bad things happen there, even though he loves the track and loves to race there. It's just when freak things happen, for some reason, seems to be, you know, one of the tracks that Joel considers his home track, it doesn't go too great. And then another one would be Brandon Hogue. I think Brandon Hogue's going to come out swinging for redemption, and he's good at Briarcliff. You know, traditionally he's always liked Briarcliff and I believe he's done decent there.
Oh, he was
So
really good there last year. Really good there last year.
I thought that he has done really well, and he just excels on that track. So I feel like, you know, these last few rounds, they might be the most exciting ones when it comes to actual, you know, people going for first places. I know normally when the season's winding down, you don't have that, but there's a couple guys that are really hungry, and I feel like they've got something to prove. And that's not even counting out Jeffrey. Jeffrey hasn't really done anything wrong, it seems like. He's up there. He just hasn't had the dice roll the way that they need to fall, I guess, for him to come out on top. He's right there. I mean, he's another one. It looks like he's put in the effort. He's got the speed. You know, he's flowing out there. It looks good on the bike, and he's got to be hungry, and he's got to be getting, you know, a little bit mad and frustrated because, you know, if I was in his position, I feel like, you know, I'm doing the work. I got the speed. I'm right there. Like, I can see it. I'm right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be very exciting these last couple of races, and we might see some of the best racing that we maybe ever have.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, in ATV motocross, it's never without action. So on this day, third overall, Kevin Saar, we just heard from him. He's battling for 10th in points, and this was a big day for him. Obviously, a big points day, going 4-6 for third overall. Problem is that the dude he's battling with, or one of them, Cody Ford, tied in points on the day with Kevin Saar. So no major points made up there, because Cody Ford ends up 4th overall. This was the second best finish of his career. We're stoked for Cody there. Obviously love to see him doing that. Like I said earlier, either storyline, whatever was going to work out, whether Cody got the podium or Kevin Saar got the podium, I was going to be stoked for the guy that got it, and I was going to be bummed for the other guy, because it seemed like they rode well enough to get it. So bummed for Cody, bummed for, and maybe that's not the right word, but for the Ford family, because the highest of highs, Bryce wins this race. At the same time, yeah, I'm sure that they were, you know, with one lap to go, Cody was going to be up there too. And then to see that slip away was probably, you know, kind of upsetting to the situation or whatever, but still awesome ride for Cody Ford, 4th overall. 5th overall, like you just said, Jeffrey Rastrelli, he's been strong. He fought his tail off in that first moto from, like I said, way back 14th to up as high as 4th, ends up getting 10th. He's probably another guy that's wishing what could have been. If he would have had a 4-3 day or something like that instead of a 10-3 day, he would have been sitting really pretty in points. But 10-3 day for Jeffrey, ends up 5th overall, another top 5 for him. That's strong. So Joel Hetrick then comes in at 6th overall, 212. We obviously know what happened in that second moto. He gets stuck and falls to the bottom of the board there. He holds on for a 12th, but he still ends up being 41 points up with 2 rounds remaining, 4 motos remaining, Brian. But the one thing, so Joel, obviously, like you said, I'm sure he's obviously not happy with the way it went. He obviously wanted to win at one of his home races that, you know, we kind of call Pleasure Valley one of his home races. You know, he wanted to get a win there, but at the same time, I'm kind of bummed because I'm announcing Briarcliff, and I would have loved to be the one to announce that Joel Hetrick just clinched the championship. And now, you know, he needs basically 9+ points to be able to do this thing. And that might not be the case at Briarcliff. So either way, I think we're going to see an angry Joel Hetrick that really wants to put a 1-1 on the board when we get to Briarcliff a couple of weeks from now. But yeah, Joel Hetrick still sitting good in the points race with a 41 point gap, but does change the situation for him because it's going to make it clearly more difficult to clinch this thing a race early now with the way that Pleasure Valley shook out.
Yeah. And Joel's going to ride smart. I mean, even though he wasn't happy with the results, I'm sure of that, and the overall finish from this last weekend,
yep.
I'm going to have to, he's going to go to Briarcliff. He's going to be confident. He's going to, know that track, know what he has to do. I don't think he's really going to put himself at risk a whole bunch. But I also think that he's going to make sure he's up in the front and where he's comfortable to be. And that shouldn't be a problem for him. Joel knows what he's doing. He knows what he needs to do. And I almost get that impression that, he when it comes down to it, he'll go championship mode. I think he'll be safe rather than take the risk, which is what he needs to do. So I 100% get it.
Well, then maybe if that's the case, then maybe we do see another winner. Maybe Chad Wienen does sneak a win at one of these last two races. If we think that Joel Hetrick is, going to play it safe, but down the stretch in recent years, and ATV fantasy players might be able to relate to this. I remember trying to predict, okay, Joel doesn't have to win this weekend. So, I'm going to pick Chad. And Joel went out there. I remember specifically at Loretta's one of the last 2 years, and he didn't have to win. And he just waxed everybody, just like he was trying to tighten the noose on him or something. So yeah, so we'll see what happens, but yes, he's a champion. He's a pro's pro. Definitely Joel Hetrick playing it safe might still be the fastest guy in the racetrack. That's probably the reality of it. Right. So we'll see what we see there. We'll see what we see down the stretch here, but 7th overall ended up to be Max Lindquist, another 7th for him, 11-4 for 7th. So a little more all over the board, but otherwise he's been consistently in 7th very often. He's finished 7th 6 times, 5 in a row races. He's finished 7th. So 7th on the day for Max Lindquist. 8th ended up being Nick Janusa. I'm sure he's another guy that's wishing what could have been, thinking what could have been. He had 3rd in the bag, and I watched his video on Instagram, and he felt like he had 3rd in the bag in that first moto. And then obviously the rain and the craziness ensued. So he goes 9-5, ends up 8th overall for Nick Janusa. 9th overall is Michael Allred. He had a really good day. So he goes 8-7 for 9th overall, but the 9th overall really doesn't matter. The 8-7 is what you get the points from. And he's locked in that battle with Kevin Saar and Cody Ford for the top 10 spot. Presumably only one of those guys is going to get the spot in the top 10. So actually a pretty solid day for him as he's battling with those guys. And then we see Wesley Wolf. We touched on him pushing his quad across the line. What a warrior, a gladiator-like effort for him. 7-10 on the day for him, 10th overall. And I don't remember exactly the quote, Brian, that we saw on the Tremelin post, but it was something like, that's what us 9-to-5ers do, against daddy's money, or something like that was the quote. But just that picture of him completely gassed after pushing his quad all that way. And they said they literally said, even though he was using the water truck lane, they scored him, all those things, which, is awesome for exerting all that effort. But that picture of him just spent is like stuck in my mind. Like, man, when they talk about that Vince Lombardi quote of laying on the field of battle, completely having exerted everything you have, victorious, that look on Wesley's face is what I imagine that feeling is like.
Oh, absolutely. Anybody that, was an athlete and played sports and, is a competitor, that have gone out and made it to those high levels where you give everything, exactly what he was doing out there and what he felt, and you can relate. And how can anybody not respect that or like that guy? Like,
right.
Everybody rooting for him from now on if they weren't already, because you just don't see that all the time. How many times people get off, they'll throw their goggles or hang them on the bars and come get it, tow it off the track. We're done here.
And we've seen Wesley do that multiple times now, push his quad across the finish line in recent years. I mean, yes, you're exactly right. How do you not look up to that guy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to respect the hell out of him. I mean, that's no easy feat. Anybody that's taken a Joe Bird school and pushed their quad up just his driveway.
Yes.
Okay. This was so much further and so much worse. This wasn't a concrete flat road by any means. This was a bumpy, slick, saturated, muddy, thick in areas road. And this guy doesn't know the meaning of the word quit. So right. All the respect in the world to him, and just amazing.
Absolutely. I echo all of that. So much respect for Wesley and what he showed there on Saturday yet again. 11th overall. Brian, this is your time to shine. This is the Suzuki here of Dane Molander. He goes 6th in the first moto, which was so impressive. 15th in the second moto, 11th overall. Obviously his best finish of the year. Stoked to see him get that 6th in the first moto. The Suzuki stayed alive to finish 6th in the first moto. What do you got to say about seeing this Suzuki in the pro class? And this is something that we've been debating. Was it the right decision? Should he have rode something else? We know he did it because it was was similar to the hybrids that he's raced in years past, or maybe more similar than anything else. So we see Dane Molander get 11th overall on this day, career best for him, which I'm stoked for. But what do you got to say about the Suzuki? Was it the right decision, or what are your thoughts on Dane Molander's season so far?
You're going to put me in the hot seat now, are you?
Well, I've been on record saying that, and maybe hindsight is probably 2020, right? As far as looking back, maybe they would have done something different. I've had people that must be privy to that program come up to me at the races and say, man, he's fighting a losing battle. He's riding a quad that he can't find new parts for and stuff like that. And I just, I hate it for Dane. It comes from a place of knowing how good of a rider Dane is. And I want the best for him. I find him to be a really likable kid too. So I wasn't trying to put you on the hot seat, more like you're the Suzuki guy. So would you have made this decision, or would you have went with the Yamaha or something else, I guess was kind of what I was getting at.
Oh, I know. I would have went a different direction in this. If you're asking me if the Suzuki is capable and if he made a bad decision there, the Suzuki is absolutely capable. He did not make a bad decision. The bad decisions are a few of the parts in that program that I personally wouldn't use because I already know that they fail. Because The other thing is too, we'll say like team parts. If you source team parts, like some of us avid Suzuki guys from back in the day, those parts now, especially we'll just use titanium as an example. The titanium Yoshimura pipes, even though they were a wonderful pipe to have back when they were new, the problem now is from the heat cycles and the thickness of the titanium, they've become brittle. So a few of those problems that he's had is because of those head pipes breaking. I would just personally, I would throw a stainless head pipe on there. There's a few different ones that you could use or have copied that design.
Okay.
Because let's face it, in this class, you want reliability. Mm-hmm. So, some people get focused on certain things such as horsepower or overall, they want to stick their chest out and, I got this. Sometimes you don't need that. I learned way back in the day, I raced street bikes and when would go to the drag strip, just as an example, I had a machine, all my friends that had the same machine had 140 horsepower. Mine had 112 and I would smoke them all at the drag strip. It's all in your setup for what you're doing. And that's where we're at with this program, is the setup is a little bit off for where they need to be to do what they want to accomplish. The bike absolutely accomplished the task being set up right. They're just not there yet. Some of the parts are not what they need to be.
Got it. Well, it sounds like maybe they need somebody like you or one of your avid Suzuki friends in his corner. But I was super excited to see him get that 6th on Saturday. Stoked to see him show a little bit of his potential, and ended up being a career best for Dane Molander there. So I'm happy to see that. 12th overall ends up being Logan Stanfield, 13-9 for him. Obviously not the overall finish, the finish that he wanted there, but he's still 9th in points. That's what matters. 13th overall, Aaron Salinas. This was a better day for him. 12-11, 13th overall for him. And this tied the best finish of his young pro career. So stoked to see that from Aaron Salinas. Brandon Hogue, we obviously talked about at length the difficulties he had on this day. 14th overall, 15-13, obviously troubles in both motos, and he's now 15 back of the battle for 5th. So not looking like Brandon Hogue's going to make his way into the top 5 this season after a top 3 in points podium season last season. So he'll be looking to make that jump next year back into the top 3. Adam Ulrich, bummer day for him. Obviously he's been so good recently, but that's not how things would go on this weekend. 14-14 for Adam Ulrich. for 15th overall, and Marshall Smith, even bigger bummer for him, 16th overall. He broke his heel. He DNS'd both motos after breaking his heel in qualifying, and that's a terrible injury. So another Suzuki out there, Brian, for Marshall Smith, a guy that the story is so cool. I think he's 47 years old. He's racing the pro class. He's holding his own. Just hate to see his season be derailed this way. You have to wonder if we're going to see him again in the pro class. But I've really loved the story of seeing Marshall Smith out there. He was trying to fulfill a dream of his, and he's done that over the course of the last couple seasons. So obviously wishing him the best in his healing process. Hope everything comes together for him, and also giving him a ton of respect for setting out to accomplish this goal of his, even though he was 45 years old, saying that he wanted to accomplish the goal of being a pro, and he's done that, and give him a lot of credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. I talk to Marshall, whenever I can. He's such a nice person and individual, and his wife, great people. He's got one of those team bikes and a lot of really cool trick parts on it, and that bike's quick. And actually, he overjumped the finish line jump. He was trying to get that triple dialed in that I was talking about that Chad had been doing.
Yep.
He over that jump, and it was such a steep landing, and it was rock hard over there. So he flat landed that, and I can't imagine coming down from that height doing that was probably pretty painful. So that's what happened with Marshall, and he assured me he'd be back next year, at least one more. So we will definitely see more from Marshall, and I'm happy to hear that, because he's such a great story and such a great individual himself. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, awesome, awesome dude.
Something else I wanted to bring up, I'm sure you noticed this, just as we were going through the results, I wanted to point out Nick Janusa. Did you notice in the last couple rounds that they had to find something with that bike, because Nick he's been up there. Like, I know he's been working on his starts too, but I'm impressed. That bike's pulling pretty good, and seems like it has kind of reinvigorated him to be up there and push. Like, it just seemed like they found something.
Yeah, for sure. I had commented on that earlier, that he's been red hot, both with qualifying and his starts. But his qualifying, he's been top 3 for the last 3 weeks, and like pushing to be the fastest at points in qualifying. And then his starts have been on point, which I love to see, because he would come on our show and we'd have to talk about starts, and it would be, this negative feeling about the thing. And now he's kind of figured that out. I'm bummed a little bit for him because of that. He like I said, he felt like he had that top 3 finish in the bag for that first moto, and that would have bode well for his day there. But yeah, he's been really, really impressive. He's been as solid as we've ever seen him in the last, say, month or so, or month and a half. And I really love to see that, because just like you said, that's reinvigorated him, I think, to where he probably is feeling like there's a fresh breath of life into his race program, because now he's going to the races knowing, hey, I'm battling for top 3 qualifier spots, and I'm getting good hole shots. And man, I'm sure that does make you a little more excited to go to the races, I would think.
Oh, the confidence has to be through the roof. I think it started at maybe it was at Sunset. I noticed that. I was like, he's got a little extra. Like, it just seems like, and it seemed like before that, I'm not being negative by saying it seemed like he was just a little bit off. And then I seen, him on the track and was watching his bike with all the other bikes, and you notice those things. It's like, he's got something now. He's right there. And then, like you said, his qualifying position started climbing and getting faster times out there. And I thought, that's pretty impressive. Obviously all these guys are going as fast as they can, but when somebody jumps from, maybe around 6th or 7th qualifying to 2nd and 3rd, they found something. Something's going on there, because they're riding a wave towards the top. So I just thought that TDR found something, and definitely translated to the track that we've seen the results. I mean, he pulled his first hole shot at Bud's.
He did. Yeah. These last 3 rounds, man, he's been right at the top, basically, every time out in qualifying. Like I said, he's been getting good starts, all these things. So A lot of credit to him, and I think that that's going to bode well. I mean, he could definitely be a guy that we see finishing on the podium at each of or one of these last couple races here to finish out the season. So, Brian, let's finish up here with a little bit of amateur coverage, and I want to start with something that's obviously very near and dear to your heart, the WMX class. We saw Kinsey Osborne's undefeated streak stay alive this past weekend, and she clinched back-to-back titles in the WMX class on Saturday. So. Kinsey's awesome. She was on our show last week. I love having her on the show. It's always such a great conversation. And you've been doing a lot of great things for the WMX class these couple of years. And you spent a lot of time with Kinsey on the podium. She's been taking a lot of the whole shot awards and these event trophies and all these things. She's been very much setting the standard in the WMX class. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the class as a whole. And then obviously Kinsey, because she's such a worthy champion now back to back in the WMX class for Kinsey Osborne.
Oh, absolutely. I remember watching her ride, on little, I think she was on a 90 when I first started watching her. And, obviously Briarcliff is my home track, I would say, being in Ohio. And, we've known Jeremy for a long time, from when we started racing. I knew him, I didn't talk to him. And over the years, we've become much closer. And, Michelle used to ride with Kinsey, and I remember she always used to say, like, she's getting quick, she's, depending upon how she takes to the bigger bikes, she's going to be a contender. She's going to be fast. And, each year should move up. And I remember watching Michelle ride with her a couple times, and it puts a smile on my face now to see Kinsey as, the women's champion and going out there and doing what she's doing. And that class, obviously, like you said, it's very near and dear to my heart. And that's why I wanted to do something and start something with them. And as far as the whole shot awards and Michelle's honor, the MJ5, I figured, my wife was such a big enthusiast and such a promoter of that class that, everything that she did with the posters, and she wanted it to have the prestige that it had back in the day when, you knew of Angela, that would be Angela Moore Butler, Heather Bird, Adrian ran that class, Megan, all these great champions that came through the ranks and not only raced with the women, but with the guys. So, that was something I wanted to help bring back. And Jeremy himself has done a great job, bringing money into that class for awards. And it's a combined effort, obviously, with everybody when it comes to ATV racing. But for this class especially, we've taken a hold of it. And then this weekend, I also had the Biggest Mover Award that I wanted to do something different. And Olivia Joyner, which not only did she get second overall this weekend, but she was the recipient of that award. So I just try to mix it up. I try to keep it fresh. I try to not just give things to the girls that keep getting them all the time, as far as, like the whole shot. Kinsey's been on a hot streak lately, yes, but she's not the only one. We've had Shelby Cabrando and Olivia herself, and also Ellie have gotten whole shot awards. But I wanted to do something to also include the girls in the pack. It's kind of like with your fantasy. I wanted to do something that the girls that maybe don't feel like they got a chance possibly at a whole shot, or that's not their thing, that, okay, here you go. We're going to do this award. You're going to be biggest mover possibility. So the person with the most passes, you're going to get something. Yeah. So I was trying to be inclusive and trying to motivate them and really help out any way that I could to make them all feel like, there's something there for them as well, and give them incentive to push and go hard. So that class has come a long ways, and I think they're just going to keep getting better and better. And with the attention that they've been getting and the speeds that they've been going as well, Kinsey's tall. So I think that allows her to do some things on that bike that's going to benefit her, especially riding with the guys and stuff. She's going to pick up things and be able to do some things that she's going to bring back over to the women's class. And those girls are going to catch on. And it's just going to be a trend that they're going to get faster and faster. So, that's something that I foresee in the future. And like you said, Kinsey's an awesome rider and champion. And I just hope that the girls keep promoting the class and giving back to it to help grow that class into something that is looked at as something that everybody can be proud of and want to market and be a part of, because it'll help the ATV community as a whole as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It makes me so happy. And I've said on so many of these episodes, especially when the WMX class got more and more traction in recent seasons, that I love the fact that people like you and people like Jeremy are continuing to build up this class and make it more of a headliner class for these women. Because before, and you know this very well because Michelle, your wife, spent so many years in these classes, in the women's class, and it was like, it was almost like the women's class was just a class. And then, your goal as a top women's racer was, there's nothing left to do but go to a guy's class, which is awesome. And that's an awesome thing to do. But at the same time, I would assume you want to be rewarded as, one of the top women in ATV motocross, right? So I love the fact that you guys have put in so much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears, all these things into this, so that these women have something to really look forward to. Because I always thought, man, if I had a daughter and she, wanted to race ATVs, and it's like, before it just seemed like maybe there wasn't, some, I don't want to say pedestal, I don't know how to say it, but right, you want it to be special to when you look up at the women of our sport, the top women specifically. And I think you are now starting to give them that. Not starting, you're giving them that. You with the give back program and the mentorship programs that are going on, and like you said, these awards are getting more showcased. It's clearly more of a premier class, and that wouldn't be the case if not for the efforts of you and Jeremy and the other people that are helping with these classes. So I give you a ton of credit, and I really love to see it, because I think that these girls deserve that. They're the fastest women on four wheels, and I think that that's really cool that you're going out of your way so that the series showcases that.
I definitely appreciate that. And it's been a long time in the works. You had said, it was just another class. I think that the problem was when they took the Pro-Am away from that class. Like, it used to be Pro-Am women, and then they had the women's. Yep. So when they took that out of the name, and there was some problems there, and like I said, my wife was one of the biggest, I guess, fighters when it came to that class to try and make things right. Because if the women ran that women's Pro-Am, the problem we would have for some of the girls, then locally the promoters were trying to classify them as a certain thing when they're women. They can't be. So once they remedied that to allow them to run at the skill level that they would fall into with a guy, that cleared a lot of things up, and we were able to start building us back up again to what it is, the WMX, the women's premier pro class. Mm-hmm. So it's been an effort, and it's been an ongoing thing over the years that has slowly progressed into that. But I definitely appreciate it. I can't take all the credit by any means. I'm just trying to continue what my wife started, and I'm trying to do it in the best way that I know how. And I'm not rich by any means, but I'm doing everything I can to help. And I appreciate all the sponsors and the contributors that have helped and allowed me to keep this going and keep her memory and name alive. It just means the world to me.
Yeah, well, you're doing a hell of a job. You really are. We know Michelle's proud of you for it, and keeping Wheels Up alive, and all the stuff you're doing for the class to make it better than you found it. So we give you a ton of credit for that, Brian. And kind of moving on from, well, no, I don't want to move on from that, because I do want to mention that. So Kinsey clinches the title. We touched on that. Olivia Joyner finished second overall, right? And then was it Holly Kramer? Holly Kramer finished third overall. And I didn't want to mention the class and the racing without mentioning her, because that was a cool podium there, because it was a little different without Neve Shaw and Andrea Berger, who had been there in recent weeks. She wasn't there either. So kind of a cool podium to see some other girls get up there.
And that was Holly's first podium.
I read that. How cool.
But yeah, she messaged me afterwards, because I had thought she actually got on the podium with Michelle at Unadilla years ago, because they were the only two girls doing Sky Shy.
Okay.
wasn't aware she had, I guess D6 was running in coordination with it that weekend, and she had a mishap in one of the classes and crashed and got hurt.
Oh.
So she wasn't up there. She had said this was actually her first WMX podium. And so that's something really cool. And I'm really happy for her. And I thought that was really something to bring up and give her kudos for. I'm sure she's, on cloud 9 already for that.
She should be. She should be. That's awesome. So as we kind of shift gears and look towards Briarcliff with the WMX class, we'll see if Kinsey can keep that streak alive. I think it's up to 23 straight moto victories for her. So that'll be interesting and fun to watch going forward. Now at her home track, be fun to watch her in the boys classes too at her home track. But the last thing I want to finish up with here, Brian, is the pro sport and pro-am classes I want to touch on. So pro sport, we saw Brett Musig grab another win, followed by Blair Miller and JJ Launderville. But a 7th place finish by Mason Jackson allowed Brett Musig to blow this title wide open to an 18-point lead. So Brett is very much in the driver's seat to defend his pro sport title. But then in pro-am, so something that we haven't touched on yet, I don't think, is that Sunday's part of the program got canceled. It got rained out on Sunday, and that's huge for Pro-Am because, we're monitoring going into the weekend. The story coming in was that only 14 points separated the Pro-Am top 5. Mason Jackson and Joey Chambers had been hot. JJ Launderville had been holding on. He was up front earlier in the season. He had been holding on right in that mix. Blair Miller was in the mix, and Kevin Saar had his back against the wall and had some ground to make up, but he was kind of right there. Andy was hot. We've seen him win some races. We've seen him on the podium almost every time out, other than last time. And at Budds Creek, we saw him go from dead last 19th all the way up to 4th or 5th or something. So he had been super hot and super strong, but his back was against the wall. Well, now they skip a whole round. No move is made with the points. And now for a guy like Kevin Saar, who had points to make up, he got an entire opportunity taken away from him to make up points with not having that race there at Pleasure Valley. So now that 14-point lead or 14-point gap, I think it's like an 8 or a 9-point lead actually back to second, but the lead that Mason Jackson has over a guy like Kevin Saar seems like a really, really big gap. But looking forward, that's going to be a battle to watch. But we were robbed of an opportunity to see some great racing in that Pro-Am class, because you mentioned Kevin Saar Pro-Am earlier. That's been a must-watch class all season long, and bummed that we didn't get to see that on Sunday. But like I said, all of the racing got canceled on Sunday there for the amateurs.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I know that anytime I've been a part of, these race weekends, they've always got the premier classes in on the days that they were supposed to run.
Yes.
So what I fully expected, honestly, when they were making the announcements at Pleasure Valley was that, more than likely they're going to cancel all the amateur stuff. They're going to hang out for a couple hours or do what they can to try and figure out what they're going to do about the track, get it in some kind of shape, or make something for those guys to be able to race, if at all possible, whether they hang out for a little, see what the call is. But I totally expected the Pro-Am class to run. And when they canceled everything, I was really blown away by that, because I thought that there was some pretty close battles going on.
Yeah.
And, abilities for points, that's really going to shake things up. Like I watched the class, I don't monitor it, point wise specifically, but I watch enough to know that, like you said, there's JJ out there, there's Chambers, Mason Jackson, these guys are all, Blair Miller, they're all in a hunt up there for something, and it always seems like they're always mixing it up.
Yeah.
So I thought that might have some pretty negative effects on the overall possibilities, because now, that's a whole round taken away from them. That's 2 races that they're not going to have. So I didn't know what that impact was. I think you'd know better than me, but I was blown away. I thought that they would at least race when the rest of us didn't. So I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I like I said, I found myself really feeling for a guy like Kevin Saar, because he had 14 points to make up, and in 3 races it seems doable. In 2 races it seems like that may be very difficult. Things would really have to fall into place to make up that kind of points at 2 races. But you're hitting kind of the nail on the head there, because there was many races in my Pro-Am, Pro-Am career where, we were the only, like, the whole event would get canceled on Sunday except for Pro-Am, and we would still race in the mud. But maybe they gave those guys that option and they chose not to. I don't know if that's the case or not, but yeah, you feel for guys. I mean, if you're the points leader, you're stoked. You're like, yeah, we don't need to race this race. And if you're anybody chasing, you probably want the opportunity to gain some points on the leader there. But Brian, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed having you on the show here. We've ran long, obviously, seems like we always do, but there's just so much great racing to talk about. I loved having you on the show, and that's going to do it for our coverage from Pleasure Valley. But I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We'd love to have you back on the show sometime. This has been awesome, and I can't thank you enough for your time and kind of sharing all of your viewpoints and your expertise and all that stuff with myself and my listeners, pal. This has been so much fun.
I really appreciate that. I had a blast. I was really looking forward to this when you had messaged me, and I hope I did well, and I hope I didn't offend anybody or say the wrong things. I wanted to walk that line and make good content and have the listeners, enjoy what we talked about and what we had to say. So I did want to be truthful and honest too about, what I seen and heard and what happened. So, I'd love to come back on anytime you want me. Just let me know. I could talk racing all day long. You say we went long, shoot, that was just a drop in the bucket.
Hey, I feel the exact same way. I could talk myself blue in the face about this stuff every damn day. But the other thing, Brian, is we're thinking about you. I know that you got something a little bit going on there with your foot or your ankle or whatever. And I know that you're getting that checked out. Hopefully, maybe you can get back on the mend and get out there for Briarcliff. I know that that's your home race. So either way, I'm sure we're going to see you there, but we'd love to see you on the racetrack, and we hope that healing process goes well for you.
I really appreciate that too. And I'm going to tell you what, Cody, I got this thing called a Dremel in the garage that I'll be on that track now.
Good. I like it. Well, like I said, I'm stoked for Briarcliff. That's been one circled on the calendar for us for well over a year at this point, because I'm going to be announcing that one. And that's been an opportunity that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I remember bombing around the yard when I was a little kid, riding on my 4-wheeler and pretending I was announcing a race that I was in. So really looking forward to that, and stoked to be announcing you being on the racetrack there at your home track at Briarcliff. I'm really looking forward to that. But again, Brian, I can't thank you enough for being here and spending this time with me talking about the racing, and we will definitely do this again, because this was a blast. You did awesome, pal.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And like I said, you have a wonderful day. Keep promoting ATVs the way you are. And man, hopefully sky's the limit with us. I'd love for us to just keep growing and getting bigger and have more possibilities.
We're just trying to make it a little bigger, a little better, one day at a time, right, pal? Just a little bit every day.
Hey, all it takes is a little bit of effort from each one of us, and look where we're at right now.
We're grinding, pal. Brian, thanks again, and we'll see you soon. Okay, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Goodbye, Cody.
We'll see you at Briarcliff, buddy. That's Brian Jenkins right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, brought to you by Valvoline. Man, this year's Pleasure Valley ATV National was an unforgettable one, and I think we did it some justice with 3 really great guests. Congrats to Bryce Ford and Kevin Saar for their standout performances at Pleasure Valley, and major thanks to all 3 of tonight's guests, Bryce Ford, Kevin Saar, and Brian Jenkins. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to photographers Ken Hill and Logan Tremelin of Tremelin Media House. Shout out to Michelle Stillo and Rated MX for the live feed of the races that we rely so heavily upon at these races that we're not in attendance for. And thanks to all of our donors. You know who you are. We appreciate you so much. Thanks to all of our partners. CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thanks to SSID decals, Valvoline, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Impact Solutions, new partner Caldera Lab, and their high-performance men's skincare products and regiment. We all know that moto is a gnarly sport. It can be hard on our skin, so allow Caldera Lab to help you achieve your skincare goals this summer. Get 20% off with our code DiggingDeep20 at calderalab.com/DiggingDeep20. And Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DiggingDeep20 at Manscaped.com. Support all the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. You can find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. ATV Fantasy latest results and standings can be found at atvfantasy.com. Shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com is your go-to source for all of our Digging Deep merch. And if you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. You can leave us a voicemail. We'd love to play it on the show, 920-569-3519. For daily coverage of the sport, you can follow our social media accounts, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content coverage and more fun stuff as we are heading into the penultimate round of this 2023 ATV Motocross National Championship Series, and I am so freaking stoked to be the voice of ATV Motocross at round 9. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links, and discount codes, show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for Bryce Ford, Kevin Saar, Brian Jenkins, Brooke Jansen, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to and making us the most listened to podcast in ATV racing, with more than 223,000 downloads last month in 103 total countries. ATV racing is taking over the world. Until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross. We'll see you next week for our Briar Cliff preview show. Can't wait. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quad leaders are freaking gnarly.